There we go. Right. Hey, how's it going, everyone? I hope you're well. Starting a little bit later than we'd planned, but all is good. We're going ahead. Hope you're having a nice Sunday night. I hope you've had a nice weekend. It's been nice weather down here. Managed to get out a little bit. I've been really looking forward to tonight. We have Stevie Creed, who's gonna come talk with me, tell me all about his experiences doing the Brooklyn Scotsman theatre show, and then the iPlayer documentary, which followed as well. But yeah, if you've never heard from Stevie, there's going to be some awesome stories. I guarantee it. He's one of these guys who's always got an absolutely mental story to tell me about this or the other in his musical life. But I'm not going to take up too much more time. Stevie's here waiting, so I'm just going to play a bit more music. I'm going to share. If you are watching just now, it'd be awesome if you could share it on Facebook and try and get it out there. Try and get as many people watching tonight as we can. Okie doke, we'll see you in a second. There we go. Right, here we are. Here's the main man himself, Stevie. How you doing, son?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Having a cup of tea. I've had a nice lazy Sunday. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
Good, yeah. Just I was out today. I had a meeting about something, so it's good it went well. But meetings never go bad. You never go away from a meeting like, oh, that was such a bad meeting. It's always all hyped and everything, but you got to make sure that you actually follow through with what you're doing, don't you?
Yeah. So what was it? Was it a music involved meeting or was it
It
for
was it
something
was
else?
like a TV thing. So yeah, another thing we kind of try to work on. So it's good. Just people that are more experienced than me that have got ways in the industry and they've done a lot more like with acting and things like that, so try to
Cool.
put something together. So you'll probably hear about that'll be this year anyway, so I'll be able to announce that pretty soon.
Well, maybe be a good idea then for because there'll be bound to be people watching just now that probably never even heard of you or what you do. So do you want to give us like just a wee bit background on what it is you do?
Yeah, I do a lot of shit, mate.
A few things.
So when I was a kid, 12, 13, I got involved in music, writing raps and recording and stuff. I was lucky I had people that were older than me got me in the studio, and I was also boxing at the same time. So it was really boxing and music that were running parallel alongside each other in my life. And then went through high school. I was a little bit of a interesting child. The school kind of politely told me that my talents were maybe suited elsewhere. So then I saved up some money, and when I was a teenager, I went to America and I went for boxing initially. But I was also still doing the music, but I didn't really have a lot to write about. And then when I got to the area I was living in Brooklyn, I had a lot to write about. So the music kind of took over, and I had a lot more to say. So I've been doing the music for all that time, probably about 17 years now. And then I did all the recording, and the boxing kind of fell by the wayside because I wasn't disciplined enough to go to the gym every day. And to be a professional, you have to do that. So I was getting pulled in many different directions in New York, and then I was doing stuff in the fashion industry and stuff in the music industry. and then did shows out there. Came back to Edinburgh, decided to do my first headline show in Edinburgh at the Liquid Rooms, and then since then it's just been shows, and then did the Fringe, did 47, 47 shows at the Fringe, and then did some acting and got involved in this TV documentary as well. So just did a documentary about my life. Just wrote a book about my life, and there's going to be more stuff coming as well. So a lot of stuff, mate. I'm doing.
Whoa, slow down, man. Right, so you got a pig, you got the TV. So
It's not.
yeah, well, I met you a few years ago. The first thing you told me, you were like, you're gonna go blow up your car, and like, and a farmer's gonna go blow
Yeah,
up your car or something. And I was like, who's this guy?
yeah. You're
He's
talking shit.
it's interesting, yeah. But it's been really nice to see, like, since the theatre show happened, then the documentary coming, and then seeing that actually air not too long ago. Is it still on iPlayer just now?
It's just
Mm,
finished. So they do
just
like
finished.
4 week runs on
Right.
iPlayer, but I'll probably go back on. They rebroadcast it straight away, which was good, and put it on iPlayer again. So
I've
that's like
seen that, yeah.
8 weeks on iPlayer. It was really good. But the theatre show. I remember meeting with you, and you were in. I went to see Seabass Kid, and I was like, "Wow, this guy is really good." And then I was wondering if there was any way I'd maybe be able to coerce you into come and working with me. And then when you said that you would come to rehearsal and that, I was really thankful. And with the theatre, you were the one who really pushed me. I remember being in that restaurant in All Bar One, and you were like, "You should really focus on that." So thank you for that, because it was kind of a real focus for me. I was like, right, let's get this done, and never done theatre before, never done the Fringe, but let's
I was
just fucking do it.
like, you don't get opportunity like that every day, and like, for especially to be from Edinburgh and get like an opportunity to go into an old Edinburgh event. I think it was the oldest
In history, yeah.
theatre in Edinburgh, right?
Oldest Fringe
So
venue in
it
history,
was
yeah.
like a Mason's Lodge place. It just seemed so right. So yeah, I'm glad you took the bull by the horns, and uh, look what's come of it now, like
Uh,
with the doc and stuff. And are you going to be doing more TV? Are they doing a TV series or something like that?
I
Or
mean, there's talk of stuff, and there's things happening, but I guess it's like with Corona as well. I can't, even if it was official, I still wouldn't be able to announce it until the networks do. But it's looking promising. So if next year, if social distancing is not in play, and we're able to actually tour and travel and go abroad and stuff like that, then there's going to be stuff happening. But right now, it's kind of like, as long as the world is the way it is, we can't really say anything. And also, I'm kind of one of those people. Even with the documentary, until I was watching it on TV, I didn't believe it was actually real. So even
yeah,
when I
yeah.
signed the contract, even when the BBC commissioned it and you're filming it, I'm like, stuff can still happen. So I think, for me, it'll be, you'll know when it is happening. It's like, it's definitely going to be there, but it's looking promising. So I think there's definitely going to be more TV stuff. And because I've kind of dipped my toe in the water there, I've learned a lot. Me, I'm like a sponge, and I'm an ear hustler. So I'm always like, all right, well, how does this work? How does overseas territories work? Post production, pre production, production. I'm learning about everything and asking everyone questions that have decades of experience in the industry. So that's what was so good about it as well, learning. And there's definitely going to be more stuff in the future now that I've learned in that sort of side of things.
I get it's like part of it, I guess, is like getting access, like you say, to people with like professional experience that you've not been able to talk to before, and like literally just having access to their minds, and they'll like see you on that same level, and they'll be able to talk to you and open up to you and give you advice about what they've learned. Has it been interesting to meet people from like the other realms of like the arts, or maybe like a bit further up the um than we usually get at the local level, like around Edinburgh and things? Like, have you
Yeah, I mean,
experienced
I
that?
think it's I'm very lucky, I'm fortunate, because people like me, usually it's like the Fringe. We usually wouldn't get to do it unless you've got money, or you've got sort of parents that will fund you and stuff. Whereas I never had that, and same with the BBC. It's very difficult to break in, and it's kind of like who will get you in the door, but what will determine how long you stay there. So I was
Sure.
lucky that when I got in the door, it wasn't like, oh, I want you to do a documentary or do this, that. I mean, obviously the director was the one pitching it and stuff, but he was pitching it with 10 years of music, 10 years of archive footage, all my shows, having 24 shows lined up at the Fringe, having shows in America. Like, I know the backstory, I know the contacts that I had, so many people. So you're bringing all this stuff which you have ownership over, because I own all that stuff, and it's like,
That's an
because
important part, right? Is like
yeah,
you haven't chipped away or given away any of that along the run. You've been sort of like knowing that you're going to play the long game, at
yeah,
least in terms of your content.
takes you. They look at you in a more professional manner, and you have no more negotiating power. Because if I'm in a BBC thing or I'm doing a TV thing and they want music for it, and I have music, but it's hip hop, and say I don't have the samples cleared, or it's something that has another producer which is maybe years ago, and I can't, get in contact with them for him to sign off the rights. That's
Right.
just a
Okay. Yeah.
nightmare. Whereas lucky, I had all the rights to everything, I owned everything, and even if it was stuff that I made with like yourself or that, like it was all kind of organic, and we did it kind of close to home. So it was good with the band and all the stuff that we did. A lot of the stuff that was in it, we just did kind of actually during the documentary as well. So
Yeah.
it's good to have that ownership. But when you get into these worlds, you learn a lot, and you realize that there's a lot of people that are really good in what they're doing, but just because they're in that realm doesn't mean that everyone is. So I know people around like yourself and people around me, my engineers, and so many talented people, creatives that work with me, and they are just on the same level. It's just that maybe not got the opportunity or the foot in. So that's kind of always been my ambition, to create a strategy and a company that means I can get my foot in the door, kick down the door, and bring all the people with me who have the talent that can do stuff I can't do, but I could be the inward to that sort of place. Because otherwise it's very political, it's very who you know. And the same with acting. Casting agents are like people that obviously if you get on with someone and you cast them again. So that's why you see all the same faces popping up in all the
Yeah.
similar dramas, if it's in Scotland or the UK. But at the end of the day, it's important to kind of get your foot in there. And if you have your own company, you can actually produce the thing. You could do that. You could produce the whole TV show, and you can hire all your people that are talented. So it's just about thinking bigger and strategically, and it's good. Yeah, I love it, mate. I'm really into all that stuff, like the business side of it and
Well, it's
all
kind of
the
like it's the hip hop way, right? Is like, yeah, you learn the rules from under the businessmen that are trying to like sort of sell your music rights, and like there was a few different books which were originally sort of written as like books for like law, like here's how music business works and things, but they were like taken by the hip hop musicians primarily, and
yeah.
they taught themselves, right, okay, I need to be armed with the correct tools here. So like if I know I'm going into this environment where these people are going to try and fuck me over, like screw me over with a record deal, or just write a really dodgy line in the contract that they're hoping I'm just going to miss, and like you'll lose your music for 10, 20 years down the line. Like
Yeah.
everyone's gone away, they've learned it, and now with the internet and things, everyone's sharing and spreading. Like here, you can do it yourself as well. And I think like as in at least as a content creator, people are seeing themselves more as content creators now, and they're trying to keep a hold of uh, all their content for themselves, and it's like very wise to do so because it'll pay dividends in the long run. We were talking recently about how important it is to have like consistent content.
Yeah,
Um,
and longevity. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got this, so this is your content. You own it, and in 10 years' time, there might be someone that goes, "Oh, I remember Stuart or Stevie, that funny. Oh, there's an interview from him 10 years ago," and they'll watch it, and that's they're
very
consuming
cool.
your
I
content.
by the way, if you're watching in 10 years' time,
Yeah,
like
yeah, and visionaries to the future and looking forward, and that's what it's about. But yeah, I mean, it is. It's about ownership, and also content is currency, so it's something that can be constantly consumed, and you don't have to keep putting money into it. It's already made, and you can like with TV, for instance, if you have a project and you license it to someone, you can relicense it 3 years after that for someone else, or whatever the contract is, and you've got the right. As long as the audience is there, you can keep selling that, and as long as people keep watching it, it's residual income for the rest of your life. But the
yeah,
music industry is, as you know, it's a fractured industry, and now everyone's starting to see that you can cut out the middleman. And I mean, this lockdown's been mad, but for me, it's been a really a sort of refreshing experience, and it's sad with everything that's happening. And my thoughts and prayers go out to all the people that are affected by it. But for me, I've learned so much. I've learned more in this time because I've had time to sit down and study the industry and study social media and study how everything works. And once you start learning every single day, there's these gems that you're learning, and you're like, yeah, this is interesting. The way things are going is more towards owning your content and moving forward. But you also have to believe in what you have, because if you don't have money and someone offers you £1 million and to sign on to a song that's went big on TikTok, it's
Right.
hard to turn that down. But then they make 50 million off it and they own it for the rest of their days, and you don't own anything. So it's
Yeah.
kind of like knowing
Was it you were telling me, was that the story about Nas?
Lil Nas X did that. Yeah,
Do you wanna tell that story?
yeah. So
'Cause I thought
his
that was
track,
quite interesting.
yeah, Old Town Road, it went really big, and it was blowing up. It went big on TikTok and all that. And then he had a meeting with Columbia. They wanted to sign him and all that, so they gave him $1 million advance, and they made 50 million off of that song.
Right.
But they own it
So
as
about
well.
50
So for the
times.
rest of their days, they own that music. Now, what he would have been better doing, not that I'm telling, he's got more money than me, but if I was him, I would have said, you know what, okay, I'll maybe do a slight percentage deal, but I still own it. And then let's focus on the next single and do a deal for the next single or the next album. But they're just looking to squeeze that one moment
Mhm.
instead of, labels used to build for albums and artist development. So this guy is like, he got $1 million, and that's $1 million. That doesn't mean you make $1 million. That means that maybe 50% goes on tax, then 20% will go to expenses. You come away with 300 grand, and as a rapper, you got to get that like starter kit, the chain, the cars, all the lifestyle. Before you know it, you've no money, and that moment is gone, and it's hard to sort of capitalize on it because you've not actually built for the next thing. So
Would
that's
you would you
yeah.
say that's sorry, would you say that's becoming more common where, like, an artist might not be aware of the value that they have themselves, and then they're just gonna take that quick 1 million, thank you very much, to the bank? You think someone like Lil Nas would be aware of industry and what's gone before, and, like, he would see his value? Like, why do you think he made that decision? Do you think it was strategic, or is just,
No,
like,
I
what
mean
he was
a
worth,
million, a
or
million quid's a lot of money, but also it's like the TV is the same, music industry is the same. They want you to believe that you should be thankful for this opportunity, not that you have what they want. So if you're doing a TV deal, it's like, oh, well, you're going to be on TV, you're going to be on BBC, your profile, the exposure, think what you'll do after that. But then you have to know, but look at what I have now and what I've built up for 17 years and what I'm bringing to the table. So if you take yourself out of the equation, do you still have something valuable? So there, you're working with that person, but the industry's brainwashed people to believe that they're not worthy and that they should get, because the whole thing used to be get a deal, sign to a major label. People don't know that over 90% of artists on major labels don't get released, and they're sitting on shelves. So if you go to these meetings with majors, you'll see all the music that never gets released, and you'll get to see that it's the Lady Gagas and the Rihannas that are keeping that machine going. But there's all these artists that get tied down to deals, and then they get miserable. And I know so many, because in America, especially New York, like every house you meet, someone's been signed to Universal or their sister or someone in their family, and they're all great, but a lot of the time they're just pissed off because the major will take creative control, and then they'll also not give you what you're worth. So before you know it, your moment's gone and you've not built for the future. But that doesn't mean, I mean, I'm not someone that's like, oh, fuck the labels, independent, woo. It's not cool not being able to pay for your milk and bread and stuff. But it's good to be aware that you're working with them, as opposed to, you should be thankful. It's like with the BBC thing, I was kind of like, look, I've never had money. I don't have anything to miss out on. I don't know what I'm missing out on. So this means more to me, like the story, the integrity, my connections, making sure that everything's sort of done in a manner that doesn't make them look stupid. But and they did a very good job, but it's also like they want you to think that you should just be thankful to be on TV. and it's not the case, because you should be on that if you've spent 17 years doing all that stuff and you're bringing so much to the table, and you can compare yourself to other people and say, well, all right, what are they bringing to the table then? If you go and find someone else with, 10, 11 hours of archive footage and 24 shows lined up
Yeah.
and quitting his job and all getting his back tattooed, that's just like stuff that's happening in the moment. But
Would you think maybe it's like that, like maybe the likes of X Factor and stuff sudden effect, like devalued talent, or at least in the eyes of the people watching it, the audience, it's about that one moment, like you come, you do your thing, you either got it or you don't. And like whether you've been doing it for 10 years or not, doesn't matter in that moment. Like they can just destroy your dreams all the same, hit the red plunger, whatever it is, but like
yeah,
where like
definitely.
when you actually do see your own value, when you walk into that, like, office or like that like, you've got that moment where you've got to go and press X, Y, or Z, then, like, you've actually got uh, the sort of pride to go in and, like, nail the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the X Factor is definitely X Factor, and reality TV and stuff's done that a lot, because people, even on the Love Islands and stuff, the profile is huge for a year until the next Love Island comes, and then someone else comes out, and it's like they're just the person that was in the last season. So they might have another run, but then it just keeps going, and then before they know it, there's been 3, 4 seasons, and they were the person in Love Island many seasons ago. But unless they have something else, it can be quite depressing for them, because they're no longer that person. They've not built up something that they have a talent for and all that, and it can be quite daunting. Like, if you're for a lot of people, musicians don't want to have to worry about business. At the end of the day, we should just be focused on the creative side, and that's what we want to do as artists. But there's music, and then there's the music business, and they're two completely different things. And now, unfortunately, for artists, if they've not got the business side to it, or someone around them that can do that for them, it's very difficult to make a living. And when you walk into these meetings with these big corporations that have multi millions, and they've got the experience, you think it's like this mystical world where you're so thankful to be in there. But for me, I've been lucky. My biggest strength is my ignorance. So I don't know what I don't know. So I'm just like, fuck it. Like, I don't really. For me, I don't act like I'm above them or under them. I just look like I don't really know anything. So don't do the deal. Like, don't do it. I'm not afraid to walk away from something, because what's in here and what's in here is more important. That's, to me, what you go to your grave with. And when you stick by that, that's got more longevity, because the people that follow you and support you know that you've went through it. You went through the hardships. They see you performing at the Fringe to a sold out venue or an empty venue, and then they see that, and then they appreciate it, because when you do get that moment, it's like, yeah, you're someone who's earned your craft, and you've not just had it handed to you, and then they stick with you longer.
Yeah,
So it's
and
but I
I
don't
think
know.
that comes across too, like, if you can, uh, have that confidence in yourself, and you've got all this back catalog there, and people will just be able to tell from your body language, just the way you sort of hold yourself, that you're not hoping out for, like, that little quick bit of whatever. You've actually put in the effort, and put the time and effort in. You're quite
Yeah,
a big fan of, like, you lent me a book, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I
yeah.
thought that was very telling. I was like, when I was round your flat, I did oh no, we didn't get in, we got locked out, didn't we?
No, we got in. I just lost my key. That was it. As
Oh, yeah,
usual.
yeah,
We were in, we
it
got
took a
in,
while to get inside, that was it.
got in, and then lost my key. So I still haven't found that key.
I mean,
But
it's
I
probably
think
in the gravel, mate.
yeah,
Anyway, but I remember when I got in, we did get in, and I seen all these books, and, like, it was just like, well, you mentioned the boxing earlier, but it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it was like Muhammad Ali, all these different boxers, and it was like, just generally, like, people of, like, backgrounds where they've just totally mastered something, whether it be a fitness thing, or boxing, or a sport, or hip hop, or whatever. But there was a lot of athletes I noticed.
yeah,
Do you still use a lot of that mindset to, like, attack your music now? Because, like, you started with boxing and switched over to hip
yeah.
hop as it took more of a focus.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely formed my character, from because I did that since I was like 12. And when you go into a boxing gym, you really need to believe in yourself, and it helps build up your character and your discipline. So I did build up that over the years, and even through high school and all that, I was known for the guy that was getting into the odd fight and that could kind of handle himself. I wasn't the toughest guy, but I got wrapped up in that sort of thing about being the tough guy or being good at fighting because you got respect from it. And the music was something I was doing as well, but I didn't get the same sort of thing from the guys. From girls like it, but from the guys, it's like, oh, you're a fighter. Wow, that's it. It's so much easier. If I had a boxing match, I could sell tickets like hotcakes. But if you have a show, it's a bit more work. And that whole mindset when you're going into the ring is that you have to be number one, and you have to be. You also, there's like an ego side to it. You kind of have to believe you're something you're not, and this godlike thing, which isn't always the best sort of way to look at things. But if you're talking about, like you mentioned, Arnold Schwarzenegger and Muhammad Ali and people like them, they have had an incredible focus. But there's things in their life, if you look at their lives, they have moments that really define their entire existence and their character. With Ali, it was when he stood up against the draft to go to Vietnam, and they'd stripped him of his heavyweight title, and he says,
Sure,
I'll
yeah.
go. Like that to me is like such courage when the whole country. People forget Muhammad Ali was the most hated man in America at that point, because as patriotic as it was, he was kind of like, if my family is not safe here and he can't eat in a restaurant because of the color of his skin, why would he travel all the way to Vietnam to fight with some Viet Cong he had no quarrel with?
Yeah.
And then what happened is people started to see the body bags coming back from Vietnam. And then what he did, he just stood his ground, and he stripped. He didn't have a lot of money. He took his title, everything, banished him from the industry. But then when he came back into the ring, he was like the people's champion because he stood for something. And Schwarzenegger was another one who came. The way I connect with him is he was a guy who came from Austria to America. And then when he wanted to get into the acting, they were like, your accent, look at the way you're built, you're never going to do it. You can't even really speak English clearly. It's never going to work. And he just said, no, it is. And it's, I look at him as an example of when I'm going as a Scottish rapper to the home of hip hop in America, how do you break that accent into the mainstream? Because nobody has done it. Like, nobody's actually broken a Scottish accent in hip hop into the mainstream. There's people that have done all right, and they've maybe done a few shows, or that they've got a bit buzz online, but there's nobody that's cracked that, because it's like very difficult to do. And the way I look at it is like, of course it is, because if nobody's ever done anything, the first person to do it is always going to have to go through the hardest hardships and set the
Yeah.
tone. So he just stayed sort of persistent and resilient for that
What's
vision. And
your what's your like take on the whole why Scottish hip hop has had such a difficult time getting into that respected area that people are wanting it to be in? Because I don't know, I felt like especially over the last 5 years or so. I mean, I've had young fathers and stuff. Obviously, maybe not is obviously Scottish, but it is Edinburgh hip hop, and it's done a
yeah,
huge amount for the scene. And then we had like Hector Berserk and Louis doing his thing, and that was a bit of buzz. And got Stanley Odd, and there
yeah,
are things there, and I feel like they are well respected, and not like,
mm.
at least amongst obviously everyone in Scotland, but I
Yeah.
think
No, they
they
are
have
definitely.
international appeal as well.
Yeah, no,
Um,
definitely. I mean, they're in Young Fathers, G that is in them. He was my engineer when I was a kid, actually. So I've got that. He was old. He's a little bit older than me, but
mm,
I started to see them from, I'm in a studio and they're helping me. They were obviously signed to a label. They used to be Freestyle, and then they've done great things. And I was in America. I've seen them, doing great things out there, and they are big in Stanley Odd and Hector Berserk and that, doing great things. But I guess where I'm talking like mainstream, I'm talking about like you hear that person blasting out everyone's cars and on the radio, and the
yeah,
reason
that's
that's
not happened yet. You're right. Yeah.
like from now, it's I think Stormzy's done some huge stuff from the UK side. He's very big, and it's even been hard for English rappers, although they've had a lot longer where they've been sort of in the mainstream, especially over here. But to
Yeah,
actually crack.
the grime scene has done crazy good over the years and had a big boom.
Yeah, definitely. And now it's people are kind of classing grime and hip hop as the same thing, but in London, it's like there's so much talent there, but in Scotland now there's so much talent as well, and it's not about who's good or who's not good. Or I think getting that mainstream sort of pool is something you can't really do that without the major label. Now, Young Fathers have that, but if you have a major label, they're the only one that can get you on radio all over the world and get, because costs millions to do that. But I think in order to do that, you would really need to branch out of Scotland, and you have to tour like U2 did it. U2 went and toured all over America, the small venues, even when they were big in Ireland, and then they built up their fan base. So even in today's era of the internet, it's still important to travel and go to these places and earn your respect. And I think that's the struggle with why it's not broken into that side of things in the mainstream. It's like you're actually you have to cultivate a culture in people's mind. Like you have to make them believe that hearing Scottish hip hop on a mainstream radio was a normal thing. So that's why for the first person to do it, it's always going to be harder than everyone else, because you can make a lot of money online. You could be a guy touring the world, no one even knows you in certain areas. Don't even know you in America. You could be touring Belgium, Portugal, Brazil, but if you really want that mainstream sort of thing, then you really have to get that sort of backing with the machine to be played all over. And then I think it's not happened. It's not really been the infrastructure for that. I mean, Scottish hip hop and grime has been evolving, and it's still evolving. So I think that's good. I mean, if it wasn't for the people before me, I wouldn't be able to do what I was doing, and I had people that helped me. So I was very lucky for that. But it's
Yeah.
going to happen. So you just need to wait and keep going.
And it's kind of nice in a way, like what you're saying, like almost counterintuitively. And I guess more so now, like when everyone starts coming back to gig after COVID, like starts to stop affecting everything, all the events so badly. It's going to be more grassroots, and instead of just seeing that digital like flicker on the screen of, oh, here's this Scottish hip hop guy, or whatever for that matter, like doesn't really matter what, you're a musician creating something anywhere in the world, just being on that screen, as opposed to like literally showing up in their hometown and like playing on their stage and being like, hey, like I'm real. And I think that in
Yeah.
this day and age, and it's going to be even more important than it was to be like out there doing the circuits. And
Yeah.
what's your take on that then? Like, are the circuits going to be there? Like, what's your experience of how things have been struggling, or
And
venues?
Edinburgh, or like you mean
I mean, well, you've got contacts all over the shop. Like, have you heard of like musicians over in New York even
I
having
mean
trouble?
they were saying to me that obviously all the musicians that work with my band, they're full time, and it's tricky for them, so they're just doing a lot of stuff like creating music and trying to get their music licensed for things. But they're kind of like, oh, it might be December till we can actually proper start having gigs. And to me, that seems quite soon.
Yeah,
But obviously over there, they're just out and about it. Like they're wanting to get back out there very fast and stuff. So I think it'll be a gradual pick up, and the world will not be the same again, and things will change. But I think you've always got to see an opportunity in amongst the chaos, and that the thing that I'll be doing next year, if it all comes off and stuff, it's going to be based around some of that, getting out there and having to get people back out into the venues in different places. So I mean, that's what I've always done, is and with nothing and nobody, and kind of not having the labels or the promoters or managers. It's just been like the band, like yourself, people that help you and believe in you, and you're in this together. That's kind of how I've always been able to do anything and do venues. So really, when I look at my skill, that's maybe what it is. It's just being able to go somewhere with nothing, and even not knowing anyone like America, and then having to cultivate a sort of plan to do a show or do an event or do a video, and then get people involved in that. So it takes a bit a time to do, and it will take a bit of time to get back to normal. But in the meantime, I think it's going to spawn a lot of great creativity, like this show and things that people are doing. And I know with myself, I've never done music like this in my life. The last few months, it's been, I've not really felt like this about what I've been writing and what I've been doing in about 5 years. So it's exciting for me, and probably having that time to focus on the creative side as being good, and it's just going to make us more determined to put on an even better show, so that it'll be maybe quality over quantity. And I think that's maybe not a bad thing, because when something, with us in the Fringe, I mean, for 4,000 shows, over 4,000 shows, 5,000 shows at once.
Yeah,
So how can you really, unless you have the backing of the advertising campaigns and the money and these corporations backing you, how do you know what the best shows are, and how do you know what's worth going to see when there's that many shows? So what happens is we get spoiled because there's just so much out there. It's like becomes saturated and we don't appreciate it. Whereas if you have less shows but higher quality, then people will then value it more. And I think they'll be like, when people start having shows, they'll actually realize how much they missed the shows and go into them, and they'll appreciate artists more, maybe,
for sure. I think it's gonna be interesting, yeah.
and they'll be able to maybe get compensated a bit better. But it's the same with all the years that people would say, oh, actors and all these things, we don't need them. And then when lockdown happens, what's everyone doing? They're watching Netflix, and then they realize how important all these arts are, because they're turning to the arts for some form of comfort during this ambiguous nature of
Yeah.
Corona. So it's good.
I think there was, at least for me personally, I felt like when it all hit, I felt like there was a huge uh just block on doing anything creative, and that lasted about a month or so. Um, and then yeah, just this flood of creativity and like just having to do stuff like partly to keep the mind occupied and like, I mean, it's like anxiety inducing times, like, and um we all suffer from some sort of like social anxiety or nerves or whatever it may be, and this whole situation's made all that worse for everyone that suffers from that thing. So like, I think folk have seeked out that creative means of distraction anyway, but then because of that, like almost like a fear response, it's like reborn, like given their hobby maybe that they've not done for ages all this new energy, and they've like rediscovered it. That's what I'm trying to say. Like they've
Mm,
like got the paints out the cupboard, or like they picked up the guitar again and we're like, right, I'm gonna write a song, or you know what I mean. Like I've seen
yeah,
so many examples of like people going to their hobbies and like like I'll be like, I never knew that you did art, or like I never knew you
yeah,
painted, or like wow, like, and then there's even little businesses popping up now being like, oh, you like my art? Here it is on a website. Like
yeah,
pay me to do it, and like we're starting to fund each other, and then like instead of us going to Amazon, like we're maybe going on maybe Facebook or our Instagrams and finding out who our friends are selling stuff that we could buy for birthdays and Christmases and things. And I think that's gonna get stronger, especially in Scotland. Like that's a Scottish mentality. Like we all band together when things get rough. And we're
yeah,
quite lucky that that's our sort of sensibility in this country. It gives me a lot of
yeah.
faith.
There's a lot of unity in that, and I kind of was overwhelmed with the support I got in Scotland when the TV thing went out, because everyone gives it such a bad rep, even in Scotland. Oh, we're all dour, depressing, and this and that, and there's a lot of that out there. But the good outweighs the bad, and I had so many people just talking about how passionate they are about Scotland, and SNP people and people from all over hitting me up and saying that they're really watching my thing, made them proud, and they're really proud to be Scottish. And I think that's an amazing thing. And when we come together, we're very strong. So we've just got to kind of focus on that and being united and moving forward and what we believe in. And we can do anything really if we stick together and stuff. But it's just having that mindset to to think bigger and understand what we have. Like, I think that's the big thing here. Maybe in Scotland, we don't always appreciate what we have, and I maybe didn't even understand that till I went to America, and that's why I was talking. It's always in the BBC thing. I was a Scottish kid, and they told me I couldn't rap, and then I went to America, and they're all like, "We love your accent, we love this," and it was like a superpower over there. And same with what you're wearing, the sporting, the fashion, the whole culture. They'd all want that. So it was good, to see that, and hopefully other people could see that as well, because it's even in the book that I just wrote. That's like 15 chapters, and there's a whole
Right.
chapter about how being Scottish saved my life, basically.
Okay.
So it's quite interesting, you know.
You want to tell me a bit about how the book came about and like it's not every day you write a book or go about getting a book deal or like what was the process and like from
Yeah, so
from the idea to like where you're at now and like when it's coming out and stuff.
well, that was another. It was like a whirlwind last year when you had the Fringe and everything that was going on, and there was a lot going on, like even with Jamie Lee and stuff, and then you had the documentary getting filmed and everything, and I got approached during the Fringe about potentially doing this book because obviously the documentary, the BBC had signed the deal and all that, and it adds a little bit of credibility to you. So when one person wants to get involved or put money into you, it does help with other people maybe wanting to get involved. So with a very established author I was working with, and I did that, and we started last year. Like straight away, I was onto it. So we'd already done a lot of the legwork before the documentary. I went over to America to film the documentary, and that's been working on that all the way since about a month ago. It kind of got finished. So that's really more in depth. The documentary is about 1% of what actually happened, but the good thing about the documentary is I think they could have went in 100 different directions with it, but I think the director saw that there was so much happening in the present. Although we had to touch on the past, we didn't have enough time to go into the fashion industry, the crack dens, and we did film a lot. But at the end of the day, it's like you'd need hours and hours and hours, and they only had an hour. So when we're out there, all the stuff that's happening with the gunshots and the shows, and like there's so much going on in the moment that it's like he's kind of like whoa, spoiled for choice. So it was good that he was able to
You probably
hone in
had no
on that.
idea what he had in store for him. Like he's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I'm gonna go film this guy, Stevie Creed should be a cinch."
yeah, yeah. I
He's
think
like, no, it's gonna be like a tornado of stuff going on constantly around you, and you won't know what to film." Like, so
but
what
yeah.
happened? Like, can you give us a bit more information? Like, when I watched the documentary, and you go off to Atlanta, and then there's this scene where you're like outside the club, and then there's like gunshots going off, and it's just madness. Like, what was going on? Like,
That was inside the club, but
this was, and this like put in perspective, time scale wise, this is like way before all of the unrest of late. This
yeah,
was
it's like just before the whole world just flipped upside down, and that's what was so crazy. All that stuff happened, and I just got back from America before lockdown, and then the whole world flipped upside down. So I was in clubs in Atlanta, and you're in New York, and then you're seeing on the news that Atlanta CNN they're smashing up the news headquarters and stuff, and it was just a surreal experience. So, but yeah, when we were out there, we were just going out there for a weekend and stuff to network. I've got a lot of good friends out there, and many years ago I was in Atlanta and I was performing in a nightclub and stuff, and then this guy Ron Du, who's like one of the biggest club promoters out there, and really entertaining guy, really supportive guy, he kind of took me under his wing, and I was staying with him in his apartment many years ago, and he's always supported me. So he was like, if you're doing the documentary, come out, we'll get you in the best club in Atlanta. So he got us in the VIP with all the drug dealers, the ball players, and so we were in the
How can you
VIP.
refuse?
Yeah, I mean, someone's got to do it. So we went out there, and then it's great. Like I was a little bit tipsy. I don't drink a lot. When I do, it's just like straight vodka.
I
It's
know
very,
this. This is true. Like I've yet to
yeah,
actually see you properly wasted, and I look forward to the day.
yeah. Well, I did a couple times out there, but so I'm a little bit tipsy. But then we're on top of the tables. People are pouring out Henny bottles, and they're going to the director. Hey, film us, man. You want some Henny? Throwing like money around and all this
Oh
stuff.
my god.
And then what happens is the house lights went on, but they were still playing the music, and everyone was going quite
Everyone's still amped up and just like
ramped up. The hype
going for it.
Saturday
Right.
night, it's bad. And then that's when the fights broke out. A woman smashed a bottle off someone's head. Then guys started bottling people. The gang started fighting. Like it went on for so long. But obviously, the BBC they only showed like a tiny snippet. But you had people getting dragged along the floor, a lot of fighting and all that. And then I was a bit worried about the director, but luckily I had people that were watching him. like chaperoning him, and he could sense there was something going to kick off. My friend Q, and Q was like, "We need to go, let's go." Gary's director is like, "Gary, let's go. We need to get out of here. Come on, let's go." And like I'm just like I'm kind of used to that. Like not that it happens all the time, but I'm used to being around madness. So I was like, when we go over to this wall, and then Gary's like filming Rondeau, and he's like, "Yeah, it's all good, you know, a little bit tussling, no one got hurt," and then gunshots start going off and all that. So I
It
think
was
that
good timing.
yeah, it was crazy, and I think that's like why Q knew something was going to kick off. You know, it was just a bit much, but you know, that's a snippet of stuff, and but that's a taste. Like with me, it's there's always stuff going on, and there's so much stuff went on that they filmed they couldn't even use because it didn't have enough time, and there's stuff that's just too crazy, and it's I
Sure.
think that's
But again, then you've sold that all to them, and then it looks like that's maybe why you're getting a bit of interest to do some more sort of TV work,
yeah.
potentially.
Well, it's always about anyone. It's a business at the end of the day. Anyone looks at it and they go, well, what longevity does it have? Like, how much depth is there to a story? If you go to a network to pitch a TV show, they want to know, could this do 3 or 4 seasons? They don't want to just go, oh, this is a cool show for one season. Like, where's the longevity in it? So it's the same with a documentary. It's a whole hour. I mean, you know, even with the Fringe, it's a lot to captivate people and have their attention for an hour. It doesn't seem like a lot of time, but an hour is quite a long time if you've not got substance to what you're doing.
Sure.
So
I
also the
think
balance.
what we learned, or what I learned a lot doing the theatre process with you, and like from the point of like you coming to the flat and like writing out the script just word for word essentially before we sent it to get like
Yeah.
edited by Liam
Yeah,
Rudden.
I don't even think I had a computer or a printer at that time. I was like, fuck. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
you're helping me with like writing it out and that. Oh, it's crazy.
And so yeah, so like I mean, I'm literally just seeing words on a page, and I'm hearing all these, literally hearing all these crazy stories for the first time by like reading them off and writing them up onto the page about like the guy in the crack den like stealing your window and like going to the Galaxy Motel, and then uh the what I'm trying to say is like for me it was where music like met storytelling, and I love movies. I love like the moving image and like art in general and telling stories through visual means, and like it was the perfect marriage for that. It was like, here's all these words, and like here I know Stevie, and here's all this music. Now we need to tell like a beginning, a middle, and an end to this story, and we need to make people actually fucking feel something
Yeah,
or like have an emotional response to it
yeah,
within that hour. Like, and that
yeah,
like I had an easy job, to be honest. Like I'm sitting there like right doing the guitar, and like I'm watching you get pushed from being someone that's just done literally like live gigs to someone who's literally being trained to be an actor in about a month.
yeah.
And it was remarkable. Like, can you talk about that? Like, how was it for you? Like going from like playing someone like the Liquid Rooms to like all of a sudden having to like provoke that emotional response and become an actor on the stage.
Yeah, it was. I'm not gonna lie, it was quite scary, and you know, for me, it sounds pretty arrogant, but I don't really get scared that much because I always compare everything to boxing when you're risking your life. So if I do a gig, it's like, well, what can happen? I'm not going to die from this, but when you're in the ring, you can die. But the theater was like, whoa, this is really alien to me because just the whole environment. Like if I go to a concert, you're used to the stage. If you go to the boxing gym, you're used to being in the ring. But if you go to theater, you're not used to being in a theater and having to go out there where it's silent and everyone is listening to your every word. They're studying every element of you and what you say and how you move and how you look. And you have to carry that as well for an hour. So I was very apprehensive about that. And it was it was like just another thing that I always do, throw myself in the deep end and see if I can swim. And if you remember, like we were working on the music and the music was pretty good. But when it came to the actual theater, like there wasn't really any rehearsals that we had. Like we had like one, it was like one run through, and then it was like fuck, like just we'll just have to see what happens on the night. And I'm like going, do I even know my script? Like I don't even know if I know my script. and your cues. Then you're getting the lighting cues because you've got to go upstage left, upstage right, downstage right, and you're like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? I just thought you moved move that way, move this way. But there's all these cues, and for the lighting, you've got to move. So you're learning all these things as you go along, and it was so.
It was a bit madness. I'll never forgive you, man. Like you were like you were full of ideas and stuff. Like Stevie boy, I've got all these ideas for the show tonight. How we're gonna make it better? And he's like selling me on all this like literally like faulty towers slapstick sort of stuff. I'm like, yeah, it's cool, man. It seems like a great idea.
Yeah,
And like
whenever you
that
dragging
ended
me
up
on the
being the
floor,
night the reviewer was in, right? There was like a reviewer in that night. And like I'm literally like jumping across the stage, like acting hysterically, pretending to be your mum with like
yeah.
a thing over my head. And like I think back to that and I'm getting red just like thinking about it, man. Oh my god.
I
We
think
did some crazy shit. It
yeah,
was pretty crazy at the
Liam
beginning.
was pissed, like definitely, because that was just I don't know what happened. It's because you leave me alone for like a little bit of time. I'm gonna go just all over the place. So we were doing it. We had the show on lock, and then it's like, oh, let's try this idea. What about you can be my mum? You can jump across the stage, grab onto my leg, and be like,
But I'm
come
the
on,
worst person to like come up with ideas like that because
yeah,
I'll instantly just be like, yeah, sure, like no
yeah.
problem. Like
And it
and
always
then and
funny.
then like we needed Jamie Lee, see, she'd be like, no, that's a terrible idea. We should not do
I know, yeah.
that.
I know, but she was kind of just up for stuff as well. But to me, I'll probably the most memorable was when the amp exploded. So
Oh yes.
we're on the stage, and then you're like, right, we're going to start, and it's not like a show where you can go, sorry, folks, technical difficulty. I'll just get back to the scene in a minute. Like you've got to just keep going, and you're like kicking your amp. It's like on fire, and your guitar's not working, so they're taking like fuses out of the fire exit sign to try and fuse the amp. And like I don't even know how we got. And I'm meant to be doing a line with you, so it's like there was a man, and then I'm like the man is gone, and you disappeared from the stage, and I'm like, wait, so Stuart just completely left in the middle of the fucking show. I don't know where he is. And then we were doing Traffic Life, me and Jamie Lee, and we're sitting down and we're like, we don't have the guitar. So how are we going to do this? And we just hear this piano going from behind the curtain. And then it's fucking you. And you're on the piano. I'm like thinking, whoa, it's like a sign from God. And then Jamie Lee just starts doing all this crazy soul stuff. And I'm going like, this is mental. And then we just went with it. And the crazy thing was afterwards, people were like, they thought that was all planned. Like we'd planned it for the
I
shit to
don't
make the fire review. And I don't know, it was so, and you were doing like this soulful rendition of like, but more power to you because you saved the day getting on that piano backstage because otherwise, fuck knows what we would have done.
Well, you can't. You're in a theater. The show must go on. Like, there's no way. There's not like. Even if you just like, I would have maybe just started singing a cappella or something. If there hadn't been a piano, like at least there was a piano there. It saved the day. Thank God for the piano. He's the real
Yeah,
savior.
definitely. Like, and I could just see the audience's face going like, looking at each other like, whoa, whoa. But
What's going
yeah,
on?
they all thought it was true. But that I think that prepares you. Like you're talking about theatre. And even the Fringe in itself, I mean, to do like 24 in a row, it's like it's
It's
just
intense
insane. Like
psychologically.
psychologically, it's intense. And if you remember, I was like having to park my car, and I'd be like working some days, and then I'm taking my stuff, setting up. Like where Stevie's just parking his car, or he's doing this and with the equipment, and it was a crazy stress. But now I just compare whatever I do. Like the documentary is just like this is a piece of pish, mate. Follow me about for a few weeks. It's easy.
Yeah,
It's not
sure.
like
Gives you
not
that
an issue.
perspective.
I mean, although it was a lot because we weren't there and we had to do a show and do an album and do a video, it was a lot of things. I couldn't really focus on one element. But with the Fringe, it's like if someone was to say to me, right, you need to go and tour 100 days in a row in a concert, it's like, yeah, that's no problem because it's not like I'm having to do theatre that takes a lot more out of you physically and your voice as well because you're
And
shouting.
mentally, like you were recounting some pretty intense stories. You were like welling up at points, and like it was an emotional story to
Yeah.
hear. I think that's why it did so well. And like, well, was the plan to come back this year? Obviously, the Fringe is all off. were you going to do the show again, or?
I mean, I think that was probably with on the back of the documentary. I probably would have been typical me going straight into like doing crazy stuff, which is good why we had the break. But we were going to do the Fringe again because of the publicity we got from the documentary. But at the end of the day, I was Liam has quite a good. He sees the future, and he was just kind of saying to me, "We could do it, but let's just wait a few weeks," because he could tell things, and people were booking up venues all over the city, and he was just telling them like, "Just wait, because this thing
Sure.
in China could come," and then so he kind of watched my back, and then I was lucky I didn't lock down a venue because I would have been screwed. And uh, in a sense, although it's a bit like, oh, I wish I could have done it.
Mm.
I actually think it's a blessing for me because it was just that was like 2 years of doing like 47 theatre shows, concerts, documentaries, books, albums. Like it just got too crazy, and now I'm like I had no time to really focus. You can't put 10% into everything. So I really wanted to focus on the creative and so I can deliver the best material and the best music. And that's what I feel I've been able to do now. So yeah, I would have probably done it again. We'll see next year. I mean, I think there might be one more year in it. It would have been good to do it this year, but I think one more year, sometimes having the time to reflect and make it a bit better can help, having that time to step back and you
I
know
think that's totally true. I think we're gonna have seen that. I think it's been like one of these silver linings for all musicians or any creative person is like this reflection time.
mm,
Like I don't know, it's even like I've likened it even to like just like a massive psychedelic trip. Like a lot of people have been stuck in their rhythms, like we all do. You've been doing your job, you've been getting on that bus every day, you've been doing your routine, whatever it is. And it's very rare anything will come in there and drag you out and put you in somewhere else and say, no, you're dealing with this now. And like
yeah,
the entire world got like yanked out and like, hey, you're dealing with this now.
mm,
And I think the silver lining of that has been this like deep reflection, which you would get from like a psychedelic trip, or if you smoke like a doobie or whatever, like you have that
yeah,
moment of reflection and look at yourself like, where am I? What am I doing? Like,
yeah.
what's the
Self
point in
reflect.
all? What is the fucking point in all this? And then if you're creatively inclined, you'll tend to pick up a guitar or like grab your notepad or like start drawing or whatever it is that inspires you, and you're like, okay, well, I'll create my way out of this weird feeling or like whatever's going on. Uh, And so it'll be nice. I think the amount of stuff that has been getting made will all come out and spill out onto the stages and like into the festivals and stuff in the next couple of years when things open.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's
I
just
hope
about
to see
having
that.
the infrastructure to do that because, and that's another thing I'll kind of you think about in lockdown. They're trying to do things that will help people, and I'm thinking, what value can I give, or what can I do to entertain people or do something that will inspire them? But I think I'd be able to do quite a lot next year in giving different musicians and actors and creatives opportunities to get out there because at the end of the day it's going to be even harder now because if you say you got a degree in acting or you're from an academy where you studied the arts and then you come out and you're into this, people will go, oh well, you've got the training but where's your experience? But they can't get the experience because they're in the house, so it's harder for them to get the jobs. Whereas I'm lucky. Well, we're both lucky. We've had all that experience. We've been very lucky. We've done so many shows and we've been out in front of different crowds and different nights and different venues. And that experience is invaluable. But think hopefully I'll be able to do stuff that will maybe offer more opportunities for people and maybe use a little bit of my platform to get that happening around everywhere here in America and everywhere because it's just going to be about that coming together as artists and musicians because the corporations and the bigger they're wanting to watch the money as well and they're wanting to figure out how they're going to meander through this corona situation and what's the best route for them because it's always changing
Yeah.
and in the industry, so you have to kind of you have to predict the curve before it happens, and that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to predict the curve so that you can have something together that will allow you to do amazing things and amazing shows and get people out there and stuff. So yeah, it's been it is I think it's been a blessing, and also you know what it's like, but you're doing your shows, you're working, I remember people don't know, like, you're working sometimes 6 days a week, and then you're after work, your eyes are burning and going. You're going to rehearsal, and we would rehearse for like 4 hours, and then driving everyone across to, like, Leith, and then I'm driving all the way back to, like, fucking Broxburg. Your eyes are burning, and then you're up the next day for work, and then you're doing more stuff, and it's like, how are you able to physically put your all into your creativity? It's like, I was just on autopilot. And then what happens with this, I'm like, wait a minute, the world's opened up to me. Like, I can
Yeah.
see, I can actually sit down and stuff's coming to me a lot easier. I'm not just thinking, I need to do this, need to do that. It's like, no, I'm
A
actually
lot of the
having time.
trouble as well, I don't know if you agree, but, like, you you can be doing things that make you feel like you're being really productive, like gigging, like, all the time or whatever, but, like, if you're really honest with yourself, when you take that moment to reflect and you go, "Wait a minute, well, the best use of my time is probably actually, like, figuring out how to get this gig, or maybe, like, trying to play support with this band, or this is gonna do me more favors." Like, there's obviously huge benefits to having played live and having, like, a tight set and being able to go up and do those things quite easily. Like, yeah, just having that, like, awareness to be like, "Well, maybe I don't need to accept every gig, and maybe I should be a bit more, forward thinking about what my plan is here." Uh,
Mm.
but
Yeah,
I've found that certainly, over the last few years, just trying to be like, "Well, what do I know? What potentially could I do with a project if everything went right and everything, all my all my preparation, like, sort of, like, met all the luck that I could potentially create for myself."
exactly. Yeah, it's like you could have the best song in the world, but if nobody hears it and nobody knows about it, it's like it doesn't matter how good you're at. Because as artists, we are always about the creative. It's the same with a business. The creative is what people love to do, but the logistical side of it is not always what is enjoyable. So the logistical side of it really should be the first thing before you do the creative, because that gives the creative room to breathe. And that's what I've kind of figured out. It's about focusing on having a logistical plan so that you can free up the time for the creative. But it's weird with me, I'm like a dinosaur because I'm so, like, even with social media and all that stuff, I'm getting a bit better at it, but I'm so old school that for me, if I sold tickets for my shows, it was like meeting people, talking to people, doing all that stuff. And when it comes to actually the online thing, it was like, it blew my mind. So when the documentary happened, even you getting all these followers, like when the credits came up, your phone's just like going crazy like that. And then Snapchat, people mess, and I'm like, how does this Snapchat thing work? Why does this disappear? And like, I'm so backward in the time. And I used to always be like an old man, like, oh yeah, but fuck that. I just gig, man. I'm a fucking hardcore journeyman musician. And then you realize, like, that's not the way to be. The way to be is evolve or evaporate. Like, if you don't evolve, you will evaporate. So that's why I've spent the last few months trying to study all this stuff and learn, how do you actually market Instagram, how do you market Facebook, and how the algorithms work, and the whole thing's changing every year. So you have to be in line with it every year. But because the industry is a fractured industry, then the major labels will go, all right, you meet with them, you could have A, B, C, and D, but you don't have, they'll be like, what's your socials? Like, what's your social numbers? And then all they're just button typers. They don't actually know about music. They don't care. They're just sitting in an office, like, going like this, pressing
You're
buttons.
painting a scary image here. Keep going,
Yeah,
Steve.
yeah. Like, and that's it. They're pressing buttons, like, all right. So then they're going, all right, this guy's got 3 million views. Brilliant. Sign him. Does a gig. No one turns up. Why is that? Because he's not built an actual fan base. He's got views online, but also you could fake views. You could fake Instagram likes. You could fake followers. You know what you can't fake? Bodies in a venue. You
Yeah.
can't fake people jumping around to your music. You can't fake your authenticity, your story, where you came from, your back record and all your experience. They're things you can't fake. So for me, I went backwards. I was like doing all the gigs, all the stories that I would talk about and the things I was doing. That
Well, I'd
was
say
all.
that's the correct way to do it. Like, I think most people are doing it backwards, but you did it the way in which actually carries the weight, and where you do see the opportunities come because you put the hard work in.
Yeah, well, you feel like you deserve it. Like, you don't, you feel like you're worthy of it. Like you'd be the same. If someone put you in Wembley, sold out, you would be able to do it, no bother, right? You might get a bit nervous, but it's not like, all
Yeah.
right,
Just a wee
and
bit.
you'd be like, I shouldn't be here. You'd just be like, yeah, of course, you've got all that experience. You've learnt your craft. You've done it, and that's with me. I feel the same thing. Like you put in those hours, but now I'm figuring out all this online stuff, and it's so exciting because the content that I'll be creating and this ideas, it's like taking on a whole new meaning, and I'm going to be able to reach more people through that, and I'm going to be able to connect with more people and all that stuff. So it's a strange thing. I think the industry is a bit sort of upside down, and that doesn't mean major labels are bad and all that. It just means that, like I
Yeah.
said, they're button typers and they're doing this. So then the artists are going like,
I
all
can
right,
see a video. I can see a video. Like we just get like 10
yeah,
people all button typing.
Spotify, how many streams you have? All right, you got on Rap Caviar, you got like that's got like 32. So you get on Rap Caviar, it's got like 32 million followers. If you get
What the hell? I'm out of touch. What the hell's Rap
Rap
Caviar?
Caviar is a Spotify playlist, right? I don't know what the exact numbers, but
Oh, right,
millions
yeah.
and millions and millions and millions of followers. If
So
you
how do
put a
you get on
song
these
on that,
playlists?
a lot of money or a lot of contacts, but also like if you are on that, you're going to get a lot of plays anyway. Like it's like me, I have a clip goes on the BBC Facebook, it's got 80,000 views, right? But I'll put up a video, it won't be the same because I don't have 1.3 million on my Facebook. But
Mm.
that's all it's an illusion. It doesn't mean anything. It's all just numbers. So back to the button typers, right? This guy or women, they're pressing the buttons and they're going, right, oh, Spotify, all right, YouTube. This guy's built up this big brand. So then the content creators are having to go, right, we need more content, we need more content, we need more content, we need to keep putting it out, we need to keep doing it. And then what's happening is they don't have the time to work on the creative. So then the quality of the product diminishes because they've not been in the studios honing their craft in the rehearsal space. So then it's like the artist and the level is then getting diminished, and it's fucking everything up. So you've got to try and find that balance, I think, otherwise people are just going to be about, oh, content doesn't matter what it is, just throw it out. But you've also got to kind of, I was lucky I went on from the other side, and now I'm trying to figure out this online thing.
Well, the
But
thing
yeah,
you can't avoid it now. It's like it's part and parcel. They're connected by the hip. I have thought about though, like how I mean, like if you had the luck, like say you maybe weren't absolutely needing all the money that you were making from music, and you could maybe make an artistic example. Like, would it be possible to like actually create a musical project in this day and age, which didn't use the internet at all, at least by the person that's making the content? Yeah, like so, like say you're out on the street playing a song, then the only way that can actually make it online and be passed about is if someone else films it, say,
mhm.
or like or they upload it or they film it or they hear it. But like the media consists, like, that's the only way you'd be able to do it. Like the media exists completely out with the digital realm and
Mhm.
like sort of gets thrown in by the audience instead of the actual creator.
Well, have you heard of what Patreon is? Patreon accounts and stuff. So,
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
that's back in the day, they'd get Patreon, and, they would pay artists or entertainers to create a piece of content and perform it for them, or, paint for them, do something, and they would pay them and fund that artist.
So
And
you,
it was
right. So
pure,
you're saying
pure
maybe Patreon is the evolution of that idea.
Well, it is and it isn't. I mean, obviously that's where the terminology comes from, but Patreon's kind of funding people that are doing online stuff as well. But that's where the genesis of that came from. So if you're an artist or you're an entertainer back in the day, you would get paid by these rich people with money to go and perform for them in their living room or wherever it was, and that would be a piece of art which you could do. I've got a friend of mine who I think he's in the documentary for like a tiny bit, Chris Carr, in New York, in Brooklyn, and he is like very well known in Brooklyn, and he does this thing called the Brooklyn Wildlife Festival. Has acts from all over America travel there in the summer, and he did this thing where he was going to perform in people's living rooms for like 5, 10 people, and he's all about that. Like he's the whole online thing. Like he would rather go and, like, when was talking about maybe bringing him over for the Fringe, he would rather go and perform to 5 or 10 people in their living room than have a venue that like what Album was doing 24 nights in a row, where you've got the pressure of selling tickets every single night and you're under that. He would rather just go and have that connection with people and an
Yeah.
intimate connection, and do maybe all these shows to 5 and 10 people. So it all depends about what your ambition is, but I think that's a great thing. I mean, I think that's what was good about the theatre, is it was intimate, and it wasn't like we were live streaming it, or it was
Mhm.
something that we were even recording. I mean, we did film it, but it's not like every night was different, and you would see that people would react differently, and from all around the world, crying, laughing, just being absorbed. And you see in their expressions, they were all taken to it in similar ways, but also different internal sort of processes. They would think about things and stuff. So I don't know.
Makes you
Yeah,
see like they are like there's an assumed way of like, oh, making it, and well, the music industry is the perfect example of it because it's so cliquey, and like there's this predetermined way of having made it or making it, and like what is mainstream now, and it's like it's actually really hard to tell what that even what that even means. And
yeah,
like what I'm taking from what you're saying is like it's more important to be like to be able to like to know within yourself what you see as your art as opposed to
yeah,
being told what your art is. Be like,
yeah,
no, I'm happy producing this thing in this moment for whatever reason, and this is it, and it doesn't need a barcode necessarily, or like even put online, or it could just be a performance. But like knowing that within yourself instead of being like trying to be like, why am I not making it? Why
yeah.
am I not in the mainstream? Like, no, like, yeah, I like that, man. That's
But
that's a
that's
cool
also
way to
why
think about
artists
it.
like kind of shoot themselves in the foot, because it's the typical thing as an artist. I don't care. I'm just gonna live off air, and I'm gonna be really artistic guy that just sits in his realm and creates this amazing shit. No, I don't want anyone to get involved. I don't want them to manipulate it. I don't want someone to come and tell me my stuff's not good, or a label to come in and then try and change what I'm doing. But and I know it's not cool to not be able to pay for your milk and bread. It's not cool to not have money to survive. So there's like that balance. But I think it's just about trying to maintain your artistic integrity, but also understanding that you need to live and there's a business. And if you're not able to work that side out of things, it's going to stifle the creativity, because you're going to be starving and you're not going to be able to pay your bills, and you're not going to be able to focus on the creative, and it's not going to give that creative side space to breathe. So, yeah, knowing in yourself's important, but then also knowing that you need to get your milk and honey
Mhm.
sometimes in that, and it's
Well, it's like like finally admitting, like the starving artist finally admitting, well, it's actually quite a good thing to know what the business is, and like to be able to pay for like my family or pay for my bills with my music. And it becomes like you get that chip on your shoulder ideally, and then you go and figure it out and be like, okay, well, this, as much as I hate these internet corporate demon monsters, like we're gonna have to deal with them, right?
yeah,
So there's the button typers. You
they're
gotta
not
write a
all
song called
bad.
The Button Typers, man. I'll like
Yeah, but
I
they're
got
not
a
all
riff in
bad.
mind.
Just people paint them as like, oh, these evil major people, and this. They're not all bad. It's just that's the system. They're sitting in an office and they've got deadlines to meet, and they're just trying to do what they know. The world's such a big place. I mean, I'm guilty of it. You probably get sent music all the time, and people will send you stuff, and it's like there's so much out there. You don't know what to look at. You don't know what's good, what's not good. So it's hard when there's that much out there. Spotify gets 40,000 songs a day gets uploaded to it. So
Wow. Is wow. Didn't know that
40,000.
statistic.
So if you get 40,000 songs a day getting uploaded to Spotify as an artist, you go, fuck, how do I stand out? But then I'm like, well, how many of those 40,000 had like a BBC documentary about their life or been in the national newspaper? So that is different. But at the end of the day, you're still got to work so hard against all those 40,000 every day to even make a little bit money. And even if you have a million streams, it's not like you're getting paid crazy money, a few thousand, but it's not like you're getting like crazy money. So
Yeah, yeah.
it's all about understanding how that works. But I think that the industry will start catering more, streaming services will start catering more towards the artists. And that's why content is currency and it's key. It's like what you're doing, podcasts, you can put this up, Spotify, everywhere, and for the rest of your days. In 10 years' time, you could have this back catalogue of all this stuff. And just because we did this interview now, 10 years' time, people might watch it and then they might enjoy it. So
Oh yeah, these future people, they're yeah. How you getting future people in 10 years
maybe
time?
not future, maybe they're wanting to
It'll
reminisce.
be us watching it, Stevie. We'll be like, those were the glory days back when we were doing those interviews. Like,
Before all my
goodness
early
knows what the world will be like in 10 years. It'll be on fire. All the whales will.
every day at a time. No,
God.
nobody's promised tomorrow. Like, I don't know how you feel, but I'm very aware of my mortality. That's how I live. So it's a really sort of, maybe that's a bad way to look at it. I don't know, but that's why when we're
It's an
talking,
honest way to put it.
yeah,
I would agree. I'm like that too. It's good to know it can all just turn off in a second.
yeah, and nobody's promised anything, and every day. That's why I just try and cram as much shit in as I can. Even with like this Corona, I'm like, there's no way I'm coming out of lockdown without a huge amount of stuff. Like I'm gonna have books, I'm gonna have documentaries, albums. I'm gonna learn 3 different instruments. I'm gonna have all these plans, business plans, marketing plans, getting courses for this and that. It's like, otherwise I'll come out and I'll be like, what have you been doing? Just sitting about watching Netflix and stuff. It's like you want to achieve so that when you are allowed out into the world, you're like unstoppable. You just been like,
Still hungry. Well, that's
yeah,
something that like I mean, I consider myself quite hungry for stuff, but like when I met you, I was just like, whoa, like you're on another level, and like I guess I thank you because like you make me step my game up like whenever I'm around you, and like
so,
it's important to
likewise,
have uh that like someone to push you, and like um I think a lot came across in the documentary as well, man. I think that for a lot of folk coming up, for folk like just grabbing a mic for the first time, or like scared to write some bars, in their school or whatever, or scared to sing them out to people. Like I think it came across a lot, like just like go out, go do it, like just be hungry for it. That's what matters. Like, and it doesn't matter what anyone says. Like if you believe in yourself, like,
yeah.
and that did come across. Like, have you had since like that's actually something I wanted to ask you. Since it came out, have you had young musicians or anyone like coming to you more often through your social media and stuff for advice
Yeah,
and things?
yeah, a lot. It's been that was something I was surprised at, but younger musicians mostly that are hitting me up, and a lot of them is the same sort of things. They're asking, can you check out these beats? I'm thinking about using them, or I might be able to do a song with you one day, like stuff like that. I'm like, with me, it's like I'm no big deal, but you've also got them saying, I'm thinking of going to someone said to me, I'm thinking of going to the studio, but my friends are telling me it's stupid, I shouldn't do it. And I'm just like, fuck them. Like, if anyone's not part of your elevation and pushing you, then they're not your friends. So go and do it. When you're on your deathbed, are you really going to go, oh, I'm glad I never went to the studio that day? It's not the case. So I mean, it's the classic thing. Eric Thomas or says, all the wealthiest place in the world is not the banks; it's the graveyards of all the dreams and opportunities that nobody sort of chased and nobody went for. That's where the most wealth is. It's in the graveyard because people are all there going, well, I could have done this, and you don't want to be going to your grave thinking, oh, I wish I'd never done that. So with the documentary, I was surprised that people were hitting me up going, "Oh, what do you think of this?" And they're asking for like a little bit of advice. And because they're maybe DMing me, I'm able to see it. I'm able to get back to them because I'm not always the best with that. And it's like they get a lot from that, and it just takes that little. Because I know for me, if when I was younger, just getting that little word of encouragement or advice, it goes a long way. And you never know where they'll be in the future, but they have a lot of negative influences around them, and if people aren't fanning your flame, they're stifling your flame. You can't have that shit. And there's so much of that out there. And I think in Scotland, because music and hip hop still like, I have all the trolls coming out. Like
Yeah,
so
man.
many troll. Like I've got like a troll society. And they don't even know me. They don't listen to the music. It's just like, fuck
Right.
this guy, he's a cunt.
Speak
So
about the trolls. Tell.
just yeah, it's trolling. It's the way that society is. But I think with me, it's I don't know. I have a lot of hate out there from trolls, but it doesn't really get to me. I think maybe because I'm a bit older and maybe I've been through a lot. It's just it takes a lot to kind of have that impenetrable armor, but it's always just like you're a cunt, or you think you're so handsome, or you can't rap, or just so many different. Or you never went to New York, or you never went for that amount of time. Just so many different things, and you're kind of going, well, all right, fair enough, but I can't really I can't process what it's like to be a hater because I'm not a hater, so I don't know where their mentality comes from. But what for me, it's important to address these things so that the people like that are hitting me up that are nervous about going to the studio because their friends are telling them they can't do it and it's stupid. I need to show them, look, I'm getting this hate every day. I don't give a fuck, like, because at the
Yeah.
end of the day, for me, I'm like, okay, well, what have you done to inspire people? What have you done in your life? That's fine. Maybe you've done amazing stuff. I don't know, but why are you focused on me? If you want to focus your energy on me, that's fine. I'll focus on me and you focus on me, and we'll just take that energy and we'll run with it. But with these people, it gets a lot to you, and you can understand why people get so disheartened. I even have people like my age musicians, and they'll let someone hear something and they'll be like, "Oh, that's shit," and they're just deflated. It's like they're a balloon and someone's just put a pin in them and they've just completely deflated. Whereas
Yeah.
for me, I've always had it in my mind. I don't know anything. So if someone says that shite, it's like fair enough. Or someone says to me, "You can't rap." Like I'm the guy who got thrown out my music class and my drama class, and then I'm doing 24 shows at the biggest art festival in the world, my own musical. But I'm the guy that got thrown out. So all that shit happened to me. And when people go, "Oh, you can't rap," I'm like, I have all these musicians around me that are more talented than I am and have the training than I have, but I'm
I
still
think
able to perform with them. So I don't know, just that ignorance. That my ignorance is my biggest strength, not knowing what I don't know.
I think that's part of it as well. Like that certainly in my experience is like the defiance part of it. Like you're saying, you got thrown out of music, you got thrown out of drama, and then lo and behold, look what you ended up becoming really fucking good at. Like when I was at school, I remember my music teacher, probably one of the best things anyone's done for me in terms of like me just like being like, fuck you, I'm gonna show you wrong. And he was like he'd said I was gonna fail this exam anyway or whatever. Anyway, I got a huge chip on my shoulder and I went out,
Yeah,
ended up in like getting the best mark for that music exam. And like it wasn't until years later that I realized what he'd actually done was beneficial and he was looking out for me, and like it was make me realize that part of like my personality where like it's good to feel that competition with yourself sometimes and push yourself and be like, nah, you know what, I think I can actually do that.
yeah. Yeah, it's the mentality but it's how to process that internally, because some people will take that and they'll just be completely deflated and they'll be resentful, and then they'll start blaming other people and looking for excuses. But going back to the boxing, like you were asking me, the mentality, where
Yeah.
did that come from? So in boxing, it's kind of like especially when I went to Brooklyn. But so you go there, you drop your hand, they slap you. Like Tyrone, the guy in the documentary, used to slap me, like literally around the head hard, like literally slap me. They'd have working on your footwork, your jab, everything going over and over, months after months after months. So you have this mentality of, I'm going to get better, I'm going to get better, I'm going to get better. You're always pushing for that sort of greatness to master the craft. So when it comes to the music, like, in the documentary, Doug and Emmy and Sean and that, like, I mean, Sean's very technical and he's always pushed me, and Doug and Emmy are like, very hard on me. But Doug told me a few years ago, actually said to me, the reason I'm hard on you is because you'll bring me something which is, for most people, really good, but for you, you can do better. And if I say to you that's really good, you might run with it. But if I say to you that's shit, he knows that I'm going to go back and I'm going to work. So I'm an athlete. So you're going to go and you're going to go away and I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to make this better. And then eventually I'll be like, yeah, that's it. That's top grade. But it's having that mentality to say, have the right people around you. If they are giving you any sort of criticism, it's a psychological thing. I didn't know why he was doing that, because I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
mind. Like, but he said
And it's
that's
hard
why I do it.
to I would agree with you, it's hard to spot unless you're in an environment where you know that's why they're doing it.
Exactly. Yeah, and you
Yeah.
have to trust that. I think you can trust that that you've all got the same vision. They're like family to me and have done so much for me. So I'm going. They're not doing this to hurt me, But at the end of the day, it is inspiring me. It is making me better. It is making me go back, work on the flow, work on the lyrics. Is every line making sense? It's not just I could put lyrics together, but if you're in a moment and you're on a journey and you're storytelling, is every line taking you there, or is there a line or a word that maybe takes you out of that? And it can be as simple as that. A word can take you out of that story. So that's the mentality of having someone that can push you to work better. But for me, that's the way I look at everything in life. Even with the documentary, it's like it was a little bit daunting for a tiny bit, because you're getting family members and they're opening up like the Sun and all that, and you've got like double page spreads in the Sun, and you got
Yeah,
like
that was cool.
yeah, EastEnders, and they were putting this advert on. That's where I got recognised in the supermarket, because it was mainly because of the adverts they were putting on before on BBC One, before EastEnders and before the One Show and all that stuff. And it's a
Right.
bit like, whoa, everyone's hitting you up, kind of giving you that, oh wow, you've made it, you've done this. And I'm just like, yeah, that's great, but I'm gonna have that wee moment, and then it's about, are you that guy that had that wee moment, or are you gonna take that, learn from it, and grow from it? So give yourself a pat on the back for 2 seconds and then give yourself a slap in the face, because you don't want to be just that guy that had that tiny moment. You want to build off of it, and there's no one moment that will give you that unbelievable amount of happiness. It's like the journey and everything, every single step you're learning. So I'm going, oh wow, I'm talking to journalists, I'm on BBC Radio, I'm learning at this moment, this is great, my first time doing this, my first time doing that, first time being involved in like the production process of something that big, and how offlines work and the footage and all these things, and it's your first. So you're going, this is a great, remember it, remember your first, because you're never going to have that moment, but just remember next time you got that experience, so make it better than what you had this time, and stuff. So it is important to kind of, I don't even know what we were talking about, but
That's fine.
I'm
This
even
is all
spoiled
our
now.
conversations are like this. It
It
tends
was
to just
boring,
go off.
mate. I'm sorry. Like I just go off, and I'm getting hyped. Like now, I'm starting to just start my day. I'm
Go.
warming up.
Let's
I'm just
go.
like ready for it. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it's never about wow, I've done something. I've never look at it like I've achieved anything. And I even, I put out a post on Instagram ages ago about my car and stuff, and it's like I drive this beat up. I mean, it's in the documentary, the Skoda Fabia. I'll reverse into lamp.
It's a piece of shit.
Yeah, but it's class, mate. It's got character. So I'll reverse into lamppost and just not even check to see if there's damage and just drive off. Like I just don't give a fuck. People have crashed into it, and I've not even got out. I've been like, it's all right, mate. It's character. So I've got that car,
Excuse
and I'm
me.
like, oh, I like cars. I love, all sorts of cars. I'm a bit fascinated with cars, but I'm like not going to get another thing until I feel like I've achieved something. So I just,
You're
I
good with
like,
cars, but you're not great with the directions. Like,
oh mate, yeah,
I
we,
don't. I couldn't count how many times we've gotten lost in your car, and like literally when you're trying to get to like your own house and stuff, though, that's the worrying part.
yeah, I know it's funny. It's always interesting being in the car with me. I remember when we were going to like past that gig through in Dundee, and I went off like this crazy country road or something, and
Yes.
that was nuts. But yeah, get there, eh? I mean, at the end of the day, it's all character, isn't it? But I don't like anything to be like, oh, that's it. Like, you're comfortable. Like everyone is like, get your sofa, get your TV, get your IKEA furniture, get it perfect. All right, I got my house, it's perfect. I never like everything. I mean, I like to have a nice place and have stuff together, but I just like not to have everything kind of that's it. For in my mind, I can just have that hunger and keep that and remember where you came from and don't ever lose that, because
The hunger is the important thing. You need to want it. You can't pretend to want something. That's something I think for years I pretended I wanted certain things. And like you have to go out and try those things and like be like, shit, this is rubbish. I don't actually like it. I thought I wanted to be that person. And like that's why it's good to try out, go out and actually try things and realize that you don't like it. Because otherwise you'll chase something that you don't even that you don't even like, like, and you'll do it for years. So it's really like for me, it's just really satisfying to know that like, I can pick up a guitar from now till the day I die, and I'll get satisfaction from that, and then everything else that comes with just that simple process of putting the guitar in my lap and writing a song. That yeah, I could go maybe play that in a pub or go play with friends. I can go take that to a festival. I could potentially make an album. I could work with these people, and all those things come on top. But at the root of it all is like I get a huge amount of satisfaction from just playing a guitar, and like the mental health that I get from just the creation process. Like people always say it's not the journey, it's not the destination, it's the journey. And
Yeah,
like I think that's important. We get so obsessed with the album or like the thing or the release or the thing, the flag post, and it's good to have those because you need to aim for stuff. But we then you'll often forget to enjoy like writing the album because
yeah.
you're like
That
because
moment.
you needs to be out by this date or whatever.
I remember you
And
said
so
that
you
to
need
me
to get the
like
balance right and like try and figure it out for yourself.
yeah, a couple of years ago. You said that you were talking about your guitar, and you're like, I know this is just if no matter where I am in the world, I have my guitar, I'll be happy, and that's it's a really great moment to get to, and you have that kind of thing because everybody's got benchmarks or things that they're trying to reach in their life, and even with this, I mean, TV thing was interesting, but I was like going, how can I learn from it? How can I grow from this moment, and how can I elevate my consciousness? So all that I took from it was like, you know what, this is a great moment, but there's going to be a lot of these, and this is just another one. So enjoy this, but don't look at it as like the thing that is going to give you some sort of happiness or a sense of achievement. Because for me, it's all about the process and learning, and you. I don't know what you were talking about, what makes you happy, but also for me, it's about what drives you and what actually is your motivating factor. And I
Yeah.
remember years ago in Brooklyn on the subway, being homeless and being hungry. And I talk about it in the theatre show, but you've got that feeling in your belly. And I wasn't that for a long time. It wasn't like I was like my friends over there being homeless for years, but I had that moment of not knowing where I was going to sleep or how I was going to eat in a country where I didn't really know anyone, and somewhere like New York is very tough. And that feeling always stays with you. So that feeling of sitting on the subway and being hungry and just going, if only I could get like a bagel or something because I'm just hungry. And then you feel embarrassed because you're like, I'm a fully grown man and I can't even take care of myself. I can't feed myself. So I never really want to have that feeling again. And then what happens is people help you in that moment, and you have people that support you, and they help to elevate you and give you somewhere to stay, some food. And then your motivation, for me, it's like, now I want to prove those people right and make sure that everything they did was not a waste of time. They didn't back the wrong horse. They didn't just, I wasn't ungrateful for that, because being lazy and not fulfilling your potential, I think, that's disrespectful to all the people who have put their time and energies into you and that believe in you. So, as you know, with the band, I always go on about it. You and all the band that helped me, all the rehearsals, all the directors, the Fringe. There's so many people, the producers. I've got over the years, I've met so many people that I've never been the guy to go, here's a lot of money, I want you to come and work for me. But they've believed in me and they've believed in something. So now I'm like, I'm getting closer to that point where I can then go, yeah, you were right about me, and thank you for supporting me. Maybe I know I could do something for you, and just show to you like the biggest compliment. I'm rambling, mate. Sorry, I know this is
Go for it, man.
just tell me. You need to stop me, slow me down if that's how it gets, because I'm starting to warm up right now.
You're
Uh,
fine. Just go for it, man. Go for it.
so when I went to film over there, and I met Cass and Mayor and all that, I was talking to the director Gary, and people, when I came back, even with when I was doing the book and stuff, it's like, well, what was the best feeling? What was it? Was it doing the shows, Atlanta, having a film crew, going back to the neighborhood? And I said, the best feeling was going to Cass and Mayor, who saw me when I was a teenager with nothing, like nobody, nothing, never knew one person. And I went there, and with a BBC film crew, and we're filming and we're going to Atlanta, and I'd done all these shows here and stuff. And Cass and me were like, yeah, we expected this. Like, this wasn't like a big deal. Like, because I was like, yeah, other places that people be like, whoa, BBC, oh, this is huge. They were just like, no, of course, like, because they know where I came from. And they're like, you're going to do this, and then it'll be the next thing, and you'll just keep growing. And, you know, we always knew that. Like, they're like, we always knew you were going to take
That's
over the
cool.
world. So I was like, that's such a huge compliment they paid to me that I went back and, you know, they had that. They're like, yeah, of course, because if I can get from that point of being there with not knowing one person in that motel before all the social media was really what it was now, and then going out and establishing all these contacts and doing shows and headlining in New York and doing all these things, it's like I was at a point where I had nothing and I got to here, then I can get from here to anywhere. And them saying that to me just like was a big, I don't know, it felt really good. And I just was like, yeah, you know, mission's still the same. It's not like I'm going, oh, forget about you, or, you know, I'm getting tied up in other things. I always have this vision. And it's also can be a hindrance to me because you were talking about when you met me and, you know, all the kind of work ethic and all this. And I'm like doing all these different things.
Yeah.
But that doesn't, as I get older, it's like, it's not everything. I need to learn to slow down sometimes because otherwise you miss everything. And again, when I was talking to Doug about music, even with like women and things like that, you know, you're going, I don't want to break your heart. I don't want to break your heart. And, you know, do I even talk to women? Do I get involved with women, or do I make all these connections? And it's kind of like, you're really worried about it because you're conscious of their emotions and my emotions. And then he was like, you
Sure.
know, your music is all true. And the reason he connected with it, he's a filmmaker, but he said, because everything you're saying is true, it resonates. So I really connect with your music. You have a lot to say because you've lived a lot of life. And if you don't go out there in the world and start living, then you're not going to have stuff to write about. So it kind of pushed me to do that. And as me, I do crazy stuff anyway. But I was like, yeah, you need to have that element of it and have the balance of having all the work, because I get very obsessive and like laser focused and just too obsessive, like too passionate about shit that you shouldn't be passionate about, and the stuff that I should be passionate about, I'm not. So it's like principle to me is very important, but I'll get so wrapped up and so focused that you don't want to miss everything that's going on around you. You need to enjoy.
Sure. Well, you can end up with the blinkers on. It's like there's a lots of things that you should be doing and could be doing, and it's just like figuring out what percentage you need to do to fill the pie with like all the good things instead of focusing. Like I'm a bit like that too. Like I'll often focus too intensely on one small part of something and forget to that all the other stuff actually helps it as well. So
Yeah,
uh
and
yeah,
you
good
were
to be
saying,
aware of others of all those other things that you need to be like even things like diet, exercise. Like, do you exercise a lot? And
yeah, I've been
uh,
doing my ability. I mean, I've been training actually quite a lot in lockdown. I got really big. Like after the documentary, I was really skinny in that. Like lost a lot of weight because
you
I did.
get tubby.
Yeah, well, I did the Fringe, right? And then you lose weight every night in the Fringe. You're doing 24 in a row. Then I went straight into filming over America and I wasn't really eating much, so because you're just always busy. So I
Yep.
lost a bit, and then I was like, when I come back to Scotland, I'm like, I'm going to get fat. I want to eat. I want to eat like everything. I love my food, so I was like, I want to eat, and I was still training and all that, and I was getting really massive. And then I was, you know, putting on a bit. But my face gets really chubby. But then now I'm like, I started really training hard and working, you know, the diet. So now I'm back to where I want to be. You're probably like a week away from where I want to be, and you know, get all the you feeling good about yourself and your nutrition. It's so important, and my nutrition's on point right now, so it's good. And you can. It's all about moderation, isn't it? Like I'm quite lucky with me. Like my body reacts really fast. So if I train, my body reacts fast, and if I diet, it reacts fast. So I know with even from the boxing how to diet and how my body works. You know, everybody's got that sort of thing. What we were talking about before, because I had like another thought that came. What was it we were talking about before
I don't
this?
know. We were on. Well, I think just before this, we were on New York. You were like on about New York boxing and like
Yeah, yeah,
the
the
mindset.
relationship, the mindset, all
Oh, I
that
was gonna
stuff.
ask you. You were saying like where you want to be, right? Like
Aye.
exercise wise, I'm a big fan of like writing out your future, like what 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Mm.
I'll sometimes even like paint it out or something, like just get it out there so I can see it and like aim for something at least. What's that for you? Like, how many years do I wanna ask you? 10 years, like, say the world goes back to normal, like, and, you manage to achieve the things that you want to do over the next few years, like, where do you see yourself in, like, 10? Like Stevie Creed,
10
"King of the
years.
world." Like,
Uh,
where do you what would you like to have achieved by
like
then
Prime
is probably
Minister probably.
a better way to ask it.
Well, 10 years is like, I always look at it
A
like,
long
well,
time.
if I get to that point, I'll be lucky. But I think definitely, I I kind of look at it like I want to have my own company. I want to have creative control. I want to make sure that I can not just have ownership over everything, but I want to make sure that I can give opportunities to people around me. Over the years, all the contacts that I've had, I've kind of always been like, I wish I had more money to give them, like even with designers and stuff. I work with designers or videographers or cinematographers, and I feel like I wish I could just pay you like to just come and do shit all the time with me. And same with musicians. I wish I could do all that. So I think 10 years time, I'd want to have toured all my music and done all that. I mean, the thing is, you're saying 10 years, but even in 2 years, like I've got this vision of what I want to have done and stuff, because having a family and stuff eventually, I think I'd like to do that. But I always wanted to have it where I'd said, yeah, I had my moment, like in the music, I had my moment. And in 10 years, I think I'd probably be more involved in the TV and film element and producing things. And also with I'm doing clothing. I've got like a fashion thing starting as well. I've been doing
Yeah,
that for
right.
years. So,
Tell the world about that, 'cause,
yeah,
that's
that's
cool. You got a couple of different clothing things going on.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good. A good friend of mine, we started that a couple of years ago, and it's going to be good. It's like very authentic. It's not just, oh, you know what, I want to start a fashion line. I'll get stuff made in Taiwan and stick a logo on it and a brand. No, it's like we've been to the mill, we've seen the fabrics. It's going to be homegrown. It's going to be stuff that's made
Well, it's
here.
Loch Arran, like, 'cause that's like Loch Arran's like, I'm down here in Galashiels, and, like, the Loch Arran mills are, like, the sort of bread and butter of Gala,
Yeah, well,
uh,
I mean, we work with Loch
on the
Arran,
border of
so
Selkirk.
we've got our own tartan and stuff designed, and we've already been making. But our thing is about self.
Has it got a name?
But yeah, I can't even tell you now. Like,
Oh, come
yeah,
on.
we've done quite a lot, but we're earlier. With me, like soon as I'm ready to tell everyone, it's going to be out there. We've got the name, got the logo, got the tartan, got
I'm sure it's a great name.
the designs and stuff. But it's about it represents what I'm kind of about, which is not being tied down and being free, and also having self sufficiency. And what we really wanted to do is try and create something that would be very ethically right. So, you might pay more for it, but it's going to be good quality, the best quality in the world, and it's going to be stuff that is made here, and we know the conditions it's made in, and it's just the way the world's. But it's been a long process. With me, it's like to get a
Don't do it
meeting.
in behalf, that's for sure.
Yeah, if you got to meet like a director of a company you don't know about the company. With me, I'll just keep calling them until somebody answers, and then I'll find someone else until I get a meeting, and then I have to get the meeting, and then I feel like I always have this confidence if I can get a meeting with someone and they see the passion, and I have a plan that I can articulate to them, which is actually going to make sense to them, then there's a good chance that they might want to get involved and stuff. So
Yeah.
I've had that people that do want to get involved and stuff. But that's going to be hopefully launching towards next year, towards the end of next year and stuff, and that'll be coming out. And that's another thing. And same with the book next year, hopefully. But everything's kind of because of this whole Corona thing. It's like you
What the
just
fuck's going on? Yeah, it's just
yeah.
like
Even to release stuff, like if you do another TV thing, do you release it after that? Do you release it? And also with the documentary, they're probably going to be showing that in America. That would just,
sure.
which is a whole
Is that
new,
so that's happening? I was hoping that would happen. It makes so much sense. I'm surprised it
yeah.
hasn't happened already, but I guess, like, there'll be contracts that have to play out and things, so
It takes a long time. Like even with the documentary, that happened fast. Like from the commissioning, the pitching, the pre-production. But when it comes
yeah,
to
I'd agree. Yeah, it was surprising how fast that all came together.
and that's really because they had to. do it because I had all the Fringe lined up. I had like all these shows lined up and all these different things I was doing. So, you're kind of you have that sort of time scale you need to have the budget through and all that. But with the overseas territories, it's like just takes a bit longer with American networks. But that'll happen. I believe it'll happen, and it'll get shown out there. And then obviously that's a whole different side to things. But they're really
True.
looking forward. I've got a lot of people in America. Like even when it went out, I had people like from India, Canada, Australia, and they were all using illegal VPNs to watch the documentary.
Amazing.
So that was cool. Even
That's
Spain,
cool. I
Spain as
always
well.
see those on Reddit and stuff. I'm like, that's cool. So you had folk
Yeah,
watching from the States.
it's good. Yeah, and it shows that it translates because it's not. It's about it's a human story, I think, and people can relate to anybody. That the amount of people that were saying they call me up and saying I'm going to quit my job now after watching this, or I'm going to do. I was like, well, that's great. It's not always the best move, but all,
Careful. Yeah.
all these people want to quit their jobs and stuff. So.
That's
Uh,
the most appealing part of doing it. Yeah. Like, it's really easy to quit your job. Like, super easy.
yeah.
It's
Oh
really
yeah.
hard to actually change, like, make an income. But, like, it takes that bit of bravery at the right time. Like, you need like, I've had periods in my life where I've been working way too much, and then I've had periods where I've just pulled the brakes off completely, and I've got a feel for what, like, I'm comfy doing and, like, uh, yeah, it's important to invest your time properly.
Yeah, yeah, and it makes a difference. I think having a plan, having things set up, and I worked in Slater's for 4 years, and it was great. It was always it was tiring, but I met a lot of great people, and they helped me so much, supported me, and I got a lot from that. And I do miss the social interaction and the banter and stuff. But I think it was just the right time to leave, and I had to take that leap and into what I wanted and what you believe in and stuff. But if you do it, you kind of have to have a really clear strategy because as musicians it's like we're always to say I want to quit my job, I want to fuck that, let's just go all out, let's be like these really organic, let's grow our own food and just fucking eat carrots out the garden and paint and make music and
What
shit.
are
But
you
at the end of the day it's a lot
The
harder.
organic food.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're related.
that's what they should be teaching in schools, how to grow your own food and be self-sufficient. But yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's an interesting thing if you do that and you quit your job. With me, I was always going to do it, but it was just about the right time, and everything's about timing in life. I always follow my gut, and I've done that in so many instances in America, and I mean, it saved my life a lot. It saved my life a lot of the time, and it's quite a dangerous place I was. And there was moments things happened, and it's so surreal when you're over there and all that. And I mean, even now, like with when I think in the documentary, I was in that car with Cass, if you remember, towards the end,
Yep.
and he was helping me kind of work on that track, rapping and all that, the flow.
That was a really cool scene, actually. I really enjoyed that part.
Yeah, so we used to do that all the time, and he's like, really close to me. But when the film crew went away, a few days later, he got carjacked and the gunpoint, and they took that car. So
What?
it's
Oh,
like
man.
although it's all nice, like me going there and with a crew, and it kind of feels like you're a bit removed from that world. I still remember that these things happen,
That
and
sucks.
it was this brother's car, took his phone, all this stuff, and that's just the reality. That was in East New York, so we were in East New York filming, but then that happened, and
Was
all
that
these.
like I mean, would that have been once COVID hit and stuff then?
Oh, that was like just after I was still in America, so
Because I
I
know,
was
like, the
there.
crime rates there have, like, gone crazy,
Yeah, I mean,
since
I think that the media as well, they can manipulate things, but yeah,
true,
it's
man. Who
bad.
knows what the fuck's going on?
But it just, it reminds you like things, and I would follow my gut a lot of the time out there, and I was probably very lucky to still be here. And at the end of the day, you, there's also the race thing, and I used to be kind of thinking. I stayed with a Jamaican at one point, and I was like, "Whoa, I must have like an angel on my shoulder, like I'm still alive and walking around." I was like really young at the time and naive, and he was like, "Stevie, no disrespect, but." The fact that you're white is probably why you're still alive. Because although you're a white guy in a black neighborhood, they'll think twice about shooting a white person because of the publicity, and it's a lot more. You get a lot more attention, and I was like, "Whoa!" It kind of made me think I'm so naive. And he was a good friend of mine, really helped me a lot. But it's just like it was a big turning point in my life, and I was like, you know what, like this shit's real. This is like really bad, and that's what real white privilege is. It's not getting a job and getting your music out there in the charts as a white rapper. You're going to be more mainstream, but it's going to be harder for you to gain respect in the actual hip hop circles. But you'll be more mainstream and sell more. But real
Right.
white
Yeah.
privilege is being left because you're white in a neighborhood, and they think twice about it. To me, that was just a horrible thing to think about, and many other things, and that's kind of why the book goes into that. But even with the documentary, like, that wasn't pushing an agenda or anything. It was just filming me with my friends, and with the book, it's just me talking about my life. There's no agenda you're trying to push, and
Yeah.
experiences that you come into that's how you learn. Because for me, everything's about emotional recall, and if you talking about you talk about like these meetings and with the big corporations. Wow, I'm talking a lot, mate. But sorry, right?
Go
So
for it.
these corporations, right? And you go in, and it's like, what do I have over them? Well, they've read a lot of words. I've lived a lot of life, so they can talk to me about white privilege or Black Lives Matter and all that, and I don't know what it's like to be black. So I can't connect to a black person, but I do know what it's like to be in a car with all my black friends and pulled over, and they step me and push me to one side and say you're all right, and then interrogate them, and I feel guilty and ashamed for being white. That emotional recall is something I have that I can talk about. And
Yeah.
I'm not even saying one thing's right or wrong. I'm not saying the police are wrong or anything. I'm just telling you what happened and how I felt in that moment. And I know how I felt, and I felt ashamed and embarrassed, and maybe a bit of a coward, because you think, "Wow, I should have stood up," but they had guns. I was a teenager. I didn't really know, and I thought my friends would be like, "Oh, why didn't you say anything?" But they were just like, "No, it's just another day. It's nothing." It wasn't really a big deal to them. So you have all these experiences that shape your perception of the world, and then people look at you differently and you look at them differently, and things start to change.
And I guess what you're saying is the difference is like for someone that's had that experience and gone through that, saying with a car and getting pulled over, against someone who's lived in their office space for most of their life, and like those two things meeting.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's when everybody's so liberal and has all these views now, and everybody's venting about, like you were talking, everything's a problem. Oh, fucking, I want to protest this and that and this and that. Like, everything's
We're
a problem.
we're outraged that everyone's outraged,
We're
everyone's
outraged.
outraged,
Well,
everyone's
we're going to show
outraged.
it. Like, we need to show people our outrage and fucking go out and do something with that. Yeah, it gets a
It's a
bit
sorry
much.
state of affairs, man. It's
It does. I don't know. It's
however, like the important thing is to do music, to get creative, like write your draw, sing your way out of it. That's the only way that I know of anyway to like keep your head straight.
yeah,
Like
just a
if I stop writing, and I really notice it, like if I stop writing, my flat gets messy. Like I stop doing my dishes. I I know my routine and my habits, and I know when, and I know a lot of my triggers now that'll like send me down old like bad paths, and like it's figuring those out as well. Like
knowing
it's
your
all
vice.
well and good, like being really good, but like if you're not aware of what pulls you back into that like bad pattern, then you have no armor against it. You have no way of defending against it. It just gets you. So like, uh,
But that shows a lot that you have that self reflection, and you can look inward and identify these things. Because I have an addictive personality, and it's quite dangerous. So I know with the boxing it was good because I had a physical outlet, and it would really consume a lot of my energy and my time. It wasn't just train. I would be reading books on every fighter, and I could tell you everything about fighters from the 1850s, the first bare knuckle boxing champions, all the way to now. Every weight, every day, every venue, every historical element that happened in their sort of beginnings and what era that was. I got obsessed with it, and then the music was also good as well. But with me, I know if I don't have that, like even now, I'm kind of twitching because I've been doing the music, writing scripts, writing the songs, doing the book, working on the keyboard, doing a lot of different things. I've finished the personal training course as well, doing the personal training course, the training, and then I'm still like, I want to just go and have a fight or go in the boxing gym, like because they're opening now, and I'm like, I'm urging, like I'm actually twitching, although
Yeah,
I'm
yeah, yeah.
no time for it. But my addictive personality is like, I really want to have a fight, like I want to go and train, and I'm like, is that sensible now? I'm still kind of young enough, but it's because of my addictive personality needs an outlet. And if
Mhm.
I don't go to the gym and have that adrenaline rush and fighting someone, then I'm going to turn to drugs or alcohol or something else. It's just the way it's going to go. And yeah, I think that's knowing, filling your time productively with the right things. Otherwise, I will be excessive. That's why if I get a tattoo, I can't just get like a wee fucking thing. I have to get it back done. If I'm doing a
As a
show,
fuck around tattoo, like.
but it's that excessiveness. It's like, all right, I want to do it. I have to do it all out and have to go. It's a bit much. So I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
there's certainly like there's value in knowing like it's okay being like knowing okay if things go really shit I could end up here in this bad situation, or if like things go really well I can end up here, and I know I can get to that place pretty easy, and I definitely know I can get to that place pretty easy. But
Yeah,
instead of being like, I'm gonna end up there or I'm gonna end up here, like the human experience is like that journey between the two. And like if you know you're gonna go to those places, or at least you know it's possible, then at least you can navigate it a bit better. That's how
yeah,
I've been thinking about it more recently, and that's helped me. Like 'cause I
yeah.
mean, I've been like before all the COVID and everything, like the circuit and like gigging, like
You're
you're going to
gigging so
pubs all
much.
the
Yeah.
time. There's like all this opportunity to be like in the music scene. Everyone's got that temptation. You can drink pints forever, and you'll get
Yeah,
free pints for
you,
playing. And
you
like,
you were never the guy to do a gig and go home and have an early night. You were always the one
no.
that like full on proper rock star lifestyle. Eh?
But yeah, but like you want to do it, and like you like, and the thing is, it is very appealing. Obviously, like normal life's so boring, so like you want to go off and do this, and you will. And obviously, when you're young, you do. But I've certainly done a lot of reflection in the last couple of years, mainly, and come away from uh, just pulled myself away from that atmosphere. I've moved down to the borders and like realized like that my music got me all those good times in the first place, right? And like I'll be fucked if I'm going to let those good times destroy my music back. So like um, you got to remember like those all those opportunities and those fun parties that you get to go to wouldn't exist if you hadn't wrote that song in the first place anyway. And if you like, I felt like I sort of drifted away from my music and like the value it was to me. And then the more I've gone back to it, excuse me, recently, it's just rewarded me like tenfold. And it's like it really is that. It's like a very organic, beautiful thing, and you do get rewarded the more effort you put into it. And I think it comes across through in the art, like even subconsciously, folk will know if it's something that you've spent time doing and like given a lot of your attention, as opposed to something you may be doing just to, I don't know, yeah, just like get a reaction or whatever.
Like they say that the creativity is the child inside you which never died, and that's. I don't know if you. I said to my friend the other day, I started music with him. We were writing, recording when we were 11, 12 and stuff. And I said, you know what? This happened. I say this to myself on odd occasion. If I was to take that person and tell them, look, you're going to have all this shit like I have now. Like even when it was like the live bands and documentaries, studio access, doing these big gigs, I was like, if you were to tell that person and give them that, what would they do with it? Like how would they feel? It would blow their mind. It would totally be like, whoa, you've got all this success. Like for me to have like a guitarist would have been like, pfft. But to have like a
It's a good
seven
way to think about it, man.
yeah,
Yeah, a good
like a
perspective to have. Yeah.
seven-piece band was like, wait a minute, that's crazy. And access to record music and do it. All these people helping you and the internet and all these things. But also, if you remember that, and then so that you start to appreciate what you have, but then remember what it feels like when you were that kid. writing a line or doing something on the guitar like you would do, or creating music, and you have this feeling of power. Like, you used to get this thing because you had nothing else. Like, that's what I liked about hip hop and writing. I didn't need any money. I didn't need any instruments, so I
Sure,
used to
yeah,
write,
it's free.
and it was liberating. It was a really good thing for me. I could do it with nothing, and you have these moments where you would create something, and you would get this like powerful feeling of like, wow, this is like, if you believe in God or anything, how you connect with God, but it's just something powerful comes over you, and then you go, the buzz you get is crazy, and I'm like, you kind of forget that as you get older. Like, you forget, how did that feel back then? So I always think, that's what I'm doing it for, that feeling. Everything else is just an illusion, the money, all the attention, all that stuff. But that moment is what got you to here. It's not even about doing a song, it's about writing something and having that moment inside you, which gives you this sense of being and worth and purpose, but also it gives you this confidence. So when you have that, you're just like, yeah, that's the best feeling. And it is, to me, I chase that feeling every day. It doesn't always happen, but it's something I've started to think about, processing, with having the time to think about things, because you can be so wrapped up in everything, and with you, probably with me as well, you're doing all these things, you're doing gigs, you're doing rehearsals, you're doing all these writing, recording, all these different things, but you're putting your percentage of your energy into all these different things. But
Yeah.
if you strip it all back and just go, why am I doing this? Like, that's the question. It's not, and
Totally, and often we're all doing a bunch of stuff that we really don't wanna be doing anyway, that we think we wanna be doing. Like,
yeah,
uh, yeah, well, we had that we mentioned that earlier, like, we're all guilty of that. It is
yeah,
really nice when you find that one thing, you like you say, when you're writing your tunes, that feeling gives you that response, and, like, you can tap into it, like, knowingly.
yeah.
It's a
Oh,
powerful thing, and I worry, like, well, I wonder, like, I urge people to write a lot, because, like, I get a huge mental health benefit from just putting pen to paper, and,
mm,
like, and it's not about trying to write a song necessarily. Like, I've done lots of different styles of writing and doing lyrics, like stream of consciousness, or, like, just taking a word as, like, inspiration, like, not having too much, not worrying too much about what it's about or whatever, but just the process itself. There's something about doing it and getting to the end of it, even if it's a minute, like, better for longer, but even if you can do it for a minute or 2 minutes, and you've got that thing that you can then reread a day later or 3 days later, and you're like, "Ah," and often, like, especially if you do stream of consciousness, you don't even know what the fuck you've written.
mm.
It's just kinda come out, and all these words, and it's kinda, and you'll decode it later on, and I get a huge kick out of even doing that, or, like, rereading things and trying to be like, "How will this be perceived and in other people's minds?" And then that helps the process. But it's that process that is, like, when you're in it, that's really rewarding, and that was my point, is, like, a lot of people don't write. Like, some people might do a journal, or, or whatever. I think that's a great idea as well, like, writing a journal. I would like to start that. But maybe that's missing for a lot of people, especially right now. It might be good to put pen to paper, even if you've fucking never done it before.
Yeah.
Just, like, write something, like, just put it out there. I guarantee something will spill out,
A lot of
and
people draw, like, they, or even I know people that are really creative, with a great artist, and they like to draw certain
yeah,
sketches which mean things, and it's yeah, it does a lot. But I don't know if you how it feels for you when you're writing, but see if you've got a problem, like you're working. I mean, I'm computer illiterate, but if you were working on like a systematic problem, and you were just all, for hours just battling your head to try and solve something, whatever it is in life, and then you find a solution for it, and it works, you get this feeling in you, which is
yeah,
like, fuck, yes, I fucking cracked it. For me, that's like when I write, you have these sort of significant moments like that, which is like, oh fuck, it's like a puzzle. Because I look at music like sometimes that jigsaw, and
yeah.
all I'm doing is like filling out the pieces. But when you get
Mhm.
one completed piece, or you get a line, or you get a word, or you get something that just fits, and you get this like, whoa, this sense of achievement, and it gives you just, and then when it all comes together and you see what you develop, and you've created something, that's like the feeling that I kind of chase every
Yeah.
day.
I think
It's
you get the reward at different stages is like, because you get the reward when you create it, like, even for having the courage to even do it in the first place. But then, yeah, like, to put a bit more energy into that initial seed. Say you write a song that you never thought you were gonna write, and then you're like, "Oh, well, maybe I could put some music to it, or maybe I could let people hear it, maybe I could upload it, maybe it could be part of an album, maybe I could do a video for it."
mm,
And then you throw all this extra energy into it, and then it keeps giving back, like, later down the line. And if you stay true as well, like, through that process, like, each time you have to make one of those decisions, like, uh, you do follow your gut, then I feel like by the time you get to the end of that seed that's growing, and, like, uh, the feeling you get back's way better.
yeah, yeah, no, it's a good buzz. I think also nowadays everything is like all the online gratification, but I don't know how you felt with, like, if you do a gig, obviously, you know, Seabass Kid and all that, it's like it's always mad. Everyone loves it, jumping around like crazy. But when I did the theater with you, I felt it was different to the concerts because we were,
Totally different atmosphere. Yeah.
and also we were going out with a product, you say, or our creation, like the music. But we pretty much scored the whole thing. You know, originally it wasn't like, oh, we just took tracks. Like we did a lot of stuff that was original scoring for that, and then we're going out there to an audience with no idea how they're going to react to it. Like we don't know, we've not tested the water, we don't know, are they going to like it? Are we going to look like idiots? Am I going to be like, oh, this guy can't act, he's just a fucking fanny? Like I don't know how it's going to happen, but to me
It's a
that
bit
was
scary. Yeah.
it was a different sort of thing. It was a real buzz though to like go with no sort of market research, not testing the water, with a creation that we'd put together and seeing how people react. And you know what it's like, but every night the energy was different, and you would feel energy from different people, and things would be like having that instant. I could see why that's why people in theatre
It's
love
addictive.
instant, like actors, they maybe love the theatre because instant sort of gratification in acting. You can see the people's eyes watering up and laughing, and you see them going like you
Yeah.
know, being shocked. So that's like something that is a great feeling to that we kind of miss now. Maybe putting what you've got out there and then having that reaction, which is so intimate, and you're feeling it like you're so close to someone. Whereas if you put a video up or a song, it's like people still are not in your presence in the sense that you can captivate them and with your energy and your aura in the same way.
Yeah. I think what
Um,
it is like I think musicians these days forget sometimes they're on a stage. And, like, you think what a stage meant, at least traditionally, even, like, even go back to Roman times, even further, like, what a stage is and what it meant. And, like, it's a place to deliver messages and tell story. It's to tell a story, really.
mm,
And, like, often you'll go see a band and if you're going to see local bands and stuff, the story is not there, right? You're just seeing a band play a bunch of songs. Um, Occasionally you'll see a really good band who, like, sort of whip you into a frenzy, and, like, likely what they've done is tell a visual story quite well on the stage, and they've whipped you into that, like, mindset where you're there with them. And it's rare, but there's obviously some bands that are absolutely amazing at it and, like, totally own that stuff. And it's not necessarily theater, it's just good storytelling. And I
yeah,
like that about doing the theater was 'cause I'm a like, I absolutely love things like Derren Brown, like Magic,
mm,
Illusions, David Copperfield when I was younger, like Paul Daniels and stuff. But,
mm,
like, Derren Brown especially is a king of using the stage, and obviously in a psychological way as well. But it's no different to how a musician should really approach their show and how it's gonna look with lights and potentially weaving story elements through, uh, like I know we were talking the other day about telling a story over, but
yeah,
instead of doing it on the stage, doing it online
yeah.
in a with content. And I think that's something that's not been tapped into completely yet.
Yeah, especially if you've got all the capabilities to do it. But I just I don't want to shortchange people, even if they're not paying you money. They're paying you their time. To get 2 minutes of someone's attention nowadays is difficult. So with the shows and stuff, I just always be like, look, if people are paying their hard-earned money to come and watch us perform, I'm not going to give them some half-ass show that's why I could easily just stand there with, no band, just backing tracks, just like every other rapper. It would be easy, like no rehearsal. I don't have to pay for rehearsals. Don't have to pay anyone. Like it's just a piece of pish. But what is that going to actually put out there? I would rather go through the hardship of having that, you know, talented band and putting on, creating new stuff and doing stuff that's different, because then people come and they go, wow, like you're transforming people's minds that maybe weren't hip hop fans, and they're going, didn't usually like hip hop, but I like your stuff because it's got all these different elements to it. And I don't like hip hop, but I like your story, or I like the element of the story, or I like the boxing, or I don't like boxing, but I like the music. It's like you're having all these different things
Yeah.
people can
Well,
connect to.
you're like removing barriers to entry, for people,
Yeah.
and it makes it more like all that stuff makes it more accessible. And I guess like hip hop's been is always that as well, at least socially, like in communities and stuff, gets used a lot to help fix the problems because it maybe like what we're on about before, writing and that process of writing, it, like helps deal with those issues and brings them out for conversation and removes barriers to entry to that type of stuff. And it's just information in general and like being honest and truthful eventually sort of gets through the cracks and people feed off it and things start to grow organically and yeah, I think you're on it, man. Like from when I first met you, I was like, you're a really driven guy. You're inspirational to be around. Everyone that works with you gets that buzz. Like,
Oh, me
um,
too. I get it from you. Like I said,
um,
I'm not any. I'm always looking at you guys and that, and I'm like, look, I don't know what I'm doing. I know I just keep doing stuff, and I just keep running at it. And
you
you
just got
all,
everyone's got to help each other, and like what goes round comes round for sure.
yeah, no, it's been good. I think, and we're still on the journey, and I think I'm just somebody that this Corona lockdown and all that, I'm trying to turn a negative into a positive, and I've been quite thankful for the time, as well as thinking about how bad it's been for people, and thinking about all the people that are less fortunate with that are really struggling even financially to put food on the table with families and stuff. But at the
Yeah,
end of the day, I'm not going to take this time for granted, because I will never have a time in my life again that I have time like this in my life again ever. I know I'll never have this, like where I'll have maybe a year where it's just like you
yeah.
can focus and create stuff. So it's important that all the people that have supported me over the years and that know that I'm going to keep going. And at the end of the day, I feel a responsibility. I was going on another tangent in one of our conversations earlier, but I was talking about Cass and Mayor and all that. And when we were doing the BBC thing, I was talking to the director, and he was picking my brains, obviously. And there's a lot like that's happened over the years. So for him, he was like, "Whoa, like you've got, you got like the fashion industry, the boxing, the music, the crackdowns, Atlanta, the fucking getting robbed, all this stuff." And it's like having to pull all that together. And I said to him, like he was like, "What drives you? What's your purpose?" And I said, I have a burden on my back, because I feel like I have this notion in my mind, and I'm fully aware because I've seen it with my own eyes. There is homeless people in the streets in New York that are so talented that would wipe the floor with a lot of musicians here that are earning good money from it, and no
Yeah,
one
yeah.
will ever hear them. Like their voice will never get heard, but they still continuously keep performing every day, because, like in the theater, we talk about it, and having the ability to tell your story through music and touch people is one of the most powerful things anyone can have. So for me, people see what I'm doing, and I'm like, well, there's people that are more talented than me, but I've got this burden, I have this weight on my back, which I need to carry to the next stage to show people that what people did for me and all the beliefs and time that they did and put into me was not for nothing. It wasn't falling on deaf ears. It wasn't wasted. And part
Well,
of that was out there.
I very much don't think it's fallen on deaf ears. It's been exciting to like see everything happen and get exposure to different aspects of the music industry that I would never have seen either. And um, so yeah, you're doing the right thing, man. I would like to finish up basically by asking you, like, what's your plans now then for like the next 6 months, and like where can folk find you? Like if we want to find you just now, like where's the best place for them to like find your music, your YouTube and stuff? Like what
I
have you
mean,
got going on in the recent future?
so got my music everywhere like Spotify, iTunes and stuff, but Instagram like removed it for some reason. So for months I've been like battling with
That's
them to put
weird.
it back up, but they're going to put it back up, and they keep saying yeah, it's going back up. So I know I've been waiting to promote stuff because they've not put it back up. So it should be back up in the next few days. And I'm going to be putting out music every single month, every couple of weeks. It's going to be new songs, new videos. And I've got a new video dropping for Love that will be coming out.
Oh, nice one. I love
Yeah,
that song. I do
yeah,
love Love.
Love. Oh, yeah, we've done that. So that video will be
Sweet.
dropping very soon. Soon as it's placed on Instagram, we'll be putting that video up, and then going to be releasing a lot of content, a huge amount of content and new songs, all new fresh material for the next 2 years. Pretty much every couple of weeks there's going to be new songs, and it's going to keep going. So that's going to be this year, and then the visuals and the music side, and then it's all going to be pretty big next year. Hopefully touring here, touring America, and doing the more TV stuff. So that'll be quite positive. And then the book will be coming out next year, hopefully, and the clothing line will be coming out next year. And then
Man,
yeah, it's just
I would
ridiculous.
probably have a heart attack if I seen your calendar. Please
It's
tell me you have a digital calendar
I feel
that
like
you
I've
use,
got a
or have
whiteboard.
you just got like notes written on like receipts and
I've
shit?
got a whiteboard, mate, and the whiteboard's kind of like
Whiteboard, thank God. Yes.
top 7 priorities, right? And then it'll be like at the side, remember, to not even take a break. It's just kind of like, you've got
Have a
to
cup of
remember,
tea, eat
enjoy the
some food,
journey. It's spinning plates, so you don't want to be like, 10% into each, because then you won't actually
spinning
achieve
plates.
anything. Because people always, it was always that thing. I'm like, do I really want to be man of many talents, master of none? But then I'm always like, when you own a business, if you have a business that is, I'm going into another rant, right? But you
Go
have a
for
business
it.
and you have a property development company, or you have something like that, it makes sense for you to know a little bit about every element of that business. So if you employ someone that is a joiner or an electrician or a bricklayer, you know enough about that for them not to screw you. So when
Yeah,
I know how to edit videos, I know enough about mixing. I couldn't, I'm not great at it, but I know enough about
you're like
recording.
you're arming yourself with knowledge so that you can't get walked over in certain fields.
And you can identify when people are shite at something, getting paid for ridiculous money for something they shouldn't be getting paid for, and you need to employ the right people to do that. But yeah, the
Yeah.
music. My aim over the next 6 to 12 months is to build up my online presence and focus on that. I'm like, if I can focus what I did on the shows and that element into the online, then hopefully I'll be able to gain some traction online.
Well,
And
I'm excited. Like we were talking some ideas the other night, and I think that's got some legs and things. So
yeah,
uh,
definitely.
look
And
forward to doing that sort of stuff. But yeah, Stevie, man, I think we should wrap it up there.
yeah,
We've been going
thank
like
you.
we nearly did 2.5 hours, 2 hours
Fuck,
20.
mate, it's
Pretty
ridiculous.
good,
Thank you
pretty
for
good,
having
man.
me on, though. This is great. I've been waiting a
Hey,
while for this. It's really, I love
my
it. Like,
pleasure, man. Absolutely. Like, come back on again. Like, you've obviously got loads of stuff going on. So when you got the book coming out, the clothing line, come back and give us updates. We've had loads of amazing feedback tonight, and loads of shares, loads of folk watching. So the folk definitely like it. So I'm sure they'll
yeah,
love to have you back.
yeah. Thank you,
I'll
everyone.
just put some of the comments up again, just so you can see who's been watching.
Yeah, because I can't
Uh,
see anything here, but like I
had
said,
Ross and Keith Shields and Mary. Hello
great.
everyone. Thank you for watching. Really nice to get some messages from you. So
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
thank
It's
you very much.
really appreciated. And the good outweighs the bad, so don't let all the negativity, anyone, it's like there's so much good out there, and that's what I've seen a lot from like I said, the haters don't do it to prove people wrong all the time, because they just go quiet. But when you prove people right, you get to celebrate with them and enjoy the moment. So that's really what I'm hoping to keep doing.
Beautiful. Well, on that note, Stevie, that's a beautiful way to end the podcast. I'll
Take
catch
care,
you
mate.
soon, man. Much love and
Keep out of
peace
trouble.
out.
Thank you.
Take it easy.
Take care, mate. See ya. Bye.
Cool, right. Thank you, guys. That was awesome. Thank you, Stevie, for that chat. I very much enjoyed that. I hope you've got a lot out of it. I know I did. Whenever I'm around Stevie, I get super inspired. You kind of help but do that. I'm gonna take it easy for the rest of the night. I hope you've had a nice weekend. I'll be back. I'm gonna go have a break for a few days, and then I think we got Jamie from Jamie and Shuni's gonna come on. We're still to agree a date, but that's gonna be a good chat. We might get Shuni on as well. I would like to get both of them on at the same time. That would be great. Uh, anyway, right. Have a good night, everyone. Peace out, and where's my music? Bye.